A pair of hands coaxes a small flame from dry kindling. A wide pot of stew bubbles merrily over the growing fire. Sora notes how dark it has become while stirring his dinner. Soft, glowing orbs of light begin to drift into the night. The magical lights are reflected in his wide, wondrous eyes. Two moons hang in a star-dusted sky above silhouetted mountains. He sits alone in a field of light, yet not lonely. One of the glowing orbs gently blooms into a spectral flower. The light detaches, leaving the glowing blossom behind for a moment. The orbs pop, releasing smaller motes of light into the darkness. His companion, Shiel, observes that he has no interest in heroism. Sora gazes forward, agreeing with his small, floating friend. He declares his wish to simply walk this mysterious new world. A title page, First Step, Elegia Kingdom, reveals his companions. In a bustling guild, Sora struggles under a massive, heavy load. Two adventurers remark on his slender frame an impossible task. He determinedly crosses the guild hall, ignoring the gawking patrons. They note the incredible luggage, wondering who this newcomer is. Walking the city streets, Sora asks Shield to join him today. He was a hero candidate, but now he works as a deliverman. In this world without cars, he carries goods up endless stairs. Science is underdeveloped, making his physical labor even more vital. He thinks about the reason he can survive in this world. It is all thanks to his unique skill, walking. The sight of sizzling meat skewers makes his mouth water. He cheerfully orders 2 skewers from the familiar street vendor. He celebrates getting a little extra, but knows he must wait. His companion, Shiel, eagerly eyes the delicious-looking meat. Shiel fumbles, splattering sauce on Sora's sleeve as he cries out. He looks down in dismay at the greasy stain on his clothes. With a determined expression, he activates his purification magic. In a flash of clean energy, the stain is completely gone. His companions, Chris and Rurika, call out to him cheerfully. His gaze is fixed on the magnificent castle overlooking the city. Chris notices his intense stare and asks him what is wrong. He quickly denies it, flustered, saying it is nothing at all. But the sight of the castle brings back memories of his summoning. The narrative flashes back to the events of 1 month prior. The king of Elegia sits on his throne, welcoming them. He addresses the bewildered students on a glowing magic circle. A confident girl announces that they are the 7 heroes. Sora, lost and confused, wonders where he could possibly be. He remembers being on a train for his entrance ceremony. Suddenly, a bright light engulfed him, and he woke up here. The king introduces himself and their location, the Elegia Kingdom. He explains the sole reason for their summoning to this world. Their destiny, he declares, is to defeat the revived Demon Lord. Sora is stunned, asking what he means by this sudden news. The king chuckles, understanding that their confusion is natural. He directs them to touch the large crystal orb on a pedestal. A young man named Mine Shun is chosen to go first. He hesitantly places his hand upon the smooth, glowing sphere. A panel appears, revealing his incredible stats as a Sword King. Minas laughs, overjoyed, saying it is just like a video game. The king is very pleased, calling it a magnificent status. He explains that this is the status panel for the heroes. Those who are summoned receive the grace of a starter status. This grace also comes with a powerful set of innate skills. They are to use these powers to fight the Demon Lord. He declares that they are special, chosen to become heroes. They are the chosen ones, beings destined for greatness. Sora is filled with excitement, wondering if he too is chosen. The other students eagerly await their turn to be tested. One girl is revealed to be a powerful archmage. Another, with long dark hair, is identified as a saintess. A bespectacled girl is a spirit magic user. A confident young man is revealed to be a holy knight. And another is a sword saint, a master of the blade. They all celebrate, realizing they have truly become heroes. Sora is amazed by how cool everyone's new powers are. The king claps his hands together, his excitement palpable. He declares the summoning a resounding success, a true jackpot. He tells them they can view their status by saying the command. Finally, the king gestures to Sora, announcing his turn. Sora's mind races with possibilities for his amazing new job. With a determined expression, he reaches out for the crystal. His hand makes firm contact with the cool, smooth surface. The panel reveals his name, but his stats are abysmal. The entire throne room stares in stunned, disappointed silence. He whispers in disbelief, confirming he has no job or level. His face twists in horror as he realizes his status is weakest. His only skill is walking, useless for fighting a demon lord. The king and his guards look on, their silence speaking volumes. The king whispers with his advisors, their expressions disdainful. He announces 6 heroes were summoned, pointedly ignoring Sora. He turned his full attention to the 6 chosen heroes. They must get the demon lord's heart stone to return home. With a smile, he officially welcomes them to the kingdom. Sora is left behind, his face a mask of utter devastation. As he stands alone, a fully armored guard approaches him. The guard stops directly in front of the rejected boy. The faceless knight simply tells him to come this way. Sora looks up at the knight, his expression full of fear. He is led away, down a separate path from the true heroes. A horse-drawn carriage waits for him in a lonely street. The carriage, drawn by 2 white horses, approaches him. The driver sits impassively, waiting to take him away. He is unceremoniously shoved out of the moving carriage. He tumbles across the hard cobblestone street, completely helpless. He lies defeated on the ground, cast out with a few coins. A carriage speeds away, leaving Sora sprawled on the cobblestones. He pushes himself up as the carriage vanishes through the gates. The massive castle gates slam shut, sealing his fate. He screams in rage, furious at being summoned and then abandoned. He notices a small pouch, wondering if it contains money. Inside are 2 silver coins and 10 small copper coins. Clutching the pittance, he wonders what he is supposed to do. His eyes widen in shock as he finally sees his surroundings. He finds himself standing in a bustling, unfamiliar medieval city. The sight of this fantastical new world completely captivates him. He stares at the timber-framed buildings so different from home. The people are all dressed in strange, antiquated clothing. He realizes with a jolt that this is just like a video game. He feels the intense, curious stares of all the locals. Unsure what to do, he kneels awkwardly in the street. Panicked, he shouts an apology and bolts from the crowd. The townspeople remark on his strange, conspicuous clothes. He collapses in a quiet alleyway, panting heavily from the run. Huddled in the shadows, he thinks about how he's all alone. He looks up from the ground, questioning his bleak future. He seethes, furious at being tossed aside for his weak status. Remembering the king's words, he mutters, "Status open." A memory of the king explains how to view his own stats. A panel appears, confirming his pathetic stats are still the same. As he stares at the screen, his eyes catch a new detail. He sees an experience value counter that is nearly full. He wonders if this was always an effect of his skill. The skill's description confirms he gains experience with every step. He realizes his long walk from the castle was earning him points. He sits, pondering what will happen when the experience bar fills. A sudden sound from nearby breaks his concentration. He realizes he's in an alley next to a lively market street. A long, loud growl echoes from his very empty stomach. He clutches his abdomen, recalling he hasn't eaten since breakfast. He looks up in alarm as a massive shadow falls over him. A hulking, menacing butcher looms over him, holding a large knife. The butcher's scarred face is a mask of pure intimidation. Sora is frozen with terror, his face slick with nervous sweat. He flinches away, apologizing for whatever he might have done. The butcher raises his hand, not to strike, but for something else. Sora screams, bracing for the worst as the butcher's hand descends. A skewer of savory grilled meat is suddenly shoved into his mouth. He stares in wide-eyed confusion, his mouth completely full. The butcher tells him to eat, saying he doesn't need any payment. Sora is moved to tears, shocked by this man's unexpected kindness. He fumbles for his pouch, insisting that he has money to pay. In his haste, he spills all his coins onto the counter. The butcher scolds him for being so flustered and careless. Sora bows repeatedly, promising to work to pay him back if needed. The butcher tells him to calm down. The money is far too much. He patiently explains the local currency system to the confused boy. He hands Sora back his change after taking the correct amount. Sora thanks him as the butcher warns him to be more careful. As he takes a single step, a strange sensation washes over him. A triumphant chime rings in his head, signaling a great change. His status panel appears. He has leveled up and gained a skill point. He sees a new list of acquirable skills that he can now learn. The butcher asks what's wrong, but Sora dismisses it as nothing. He decides to use his skill point to learn appraisal. His eyes widen in amazement as the new skill takes effect. He looks at the skewer and sees its name and quality appear. He is thrilled that gaining experience unlocks such useful abilities. He realizes he can learn many other skills with more skill points. The butcher asks what he's staring at as Sora thanks him. He looks at the wolf meat skewer with newfound appreciation. He takes a huge, eager bite of the savory grilled meat. The incredible flavor hits him, leaving him momentarily speechless. He exclaims that it's absolutely delicious, his cheeks puffed out. He marvels at how tender the meat is, its juices filling his mouth. He analyzes the perfect blend of spices and the rich, savory sauce. He apologizes for getting carried away with his impromptu food review. The butcher lets out a massive, booming laugh at the boy's passion. He is impressed that Sora could recognize the meat's quality so easily. The butcher asks for his name, and he introduces himself as Sora. The butcher winks, sensing there's something special about this kid. He offers to help Sora, who looks on in stunned gratitude. Sora can't believe his luck, wondering if this is really happening. He sighs in contentment after finishing his delicious, life-changing meal. Now, wearing a borrowed cloak, he wonders if he'll finally fit in. The butcher advises him to buy new clothes to be less conspicuous. Sora realizes the power of his walking skill. He feels no fatigue. He finds the clothing store that the butcher recommended to him. He looks up at the sign, but cannot read the unfamiliar script. Suddenly, a pop-up in Japanese appears, translating the sign for him. He wonders if this helpful translation is something only he can see. A friendly shopkeeper welcomes him, asking him to come inside. An hour later, he has tried on countless different outfits. He emerges in a new adventurer's coat, looking like a hero. The shopkeeper offers to buy his old uniform for 3 gold coins. He leaves the shop, amazed that he actually made money buying clothes. He marvels at his incredible and sudden turn of fortune. Back at the stall, he thanks the butcher for all of his help. He eagerly asks if there's any way he can repay his kindness. The butcher tells him not to worry, but Sora passionately insists. The butcher mentions he has an errand to his inn on the hill. Sora is thrilled, as he was looking for a place to stay anyway. He thanks the butcher and waves goodbye, ready for his first task. The butcher stops him, offering him a tent and a frying pan. He heaps more supplies onto Sora, including a pack and binoculars. Ollie worries that the massive pile of gear is far too much to carry. Sora considers the challenge, thinking his walking skill should be enough. He turns to a shocked Ollie, insisting that it will probably be fine. Ollie yells for him to stop as Sora visibly strains under the heavy load. Sora plants his feet firmly on the cobblestone, taking a single, determined step. He then strides forward with ease, the enormous pack suddenly feeling weightless. Ollie can only stare in utter disbelief, his eye wide with shock. Sora realizes with a start that the weight completely vanished as he walked. He joyfully waves goodbye to Ollie, who stammers a reply for him to return. With a new sense of purpose, Sora sets his gaze forward. He faces a massive, forested hill, realizing it's more of a mountain. He knows his former self would have found this climb completely impossible, but with his walking skill, he declares himself invincible and begins his ascent. His eyes widen in wonder at a beautiful sight high in the trees. He admires a colorful mother bird tending to her young chick. Curious, he instinctively activates his appraisal skill to learn more. The skill identifies the creature as a seven-colored bird with unique abilities. He smiles, realizing this world is full of things he doesn't know. A contented smile plays on his lips as he continues his journey. He leaps across a stream, laughing that this adventure has become fun. He muses that his walking skill might be far better than he thought. A gentle, happy smile graces his face as he reflects on his luck. He remembers the despair he felt when cast out from the royal castle. But then he recalls the kind townspeople and the delicious food. Everything in this world is new, a constant stream of first experiences. He realizes that, unexpectedly, he is truly enjoying this new life. The profound realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. He stands on a hill, the walled city of Elegia now behind him. The sprawling cityscape stretches out below, a beautiful and vast sight. He is awestruck by the beauty of the world he was summoned to. He remembers his initial confusion, not knowing where to go or what to do. A flashback shows him lost and alone in an alley, still in his uniform. But now, back in the present, he has made a firm decision. He takes a deep breath, ready to declare his new purpose aloud. He vows to use his walking skill to see every corner of this world. This is the story of the one who was summoned as a failed hero. His journey will be guided by curiosity, not by destiny. He thinks of the kind faces he has already met along the way. He also thinks of the intimidating figures he has yet to truly know. His boot takes another firm step forward on his magnificent new path. A status panel appears, showing his walking skill has reached level 5. The story then rewinds to the first morning after his exile. Sora sits up in bed, realizing his terrible ordeal was not a dream. He stretches, greeting the dawn of his first full day in this world. With a resolute expression, he decides his first priority is to find a job. A new chapter begins. Step 2. Let's find a job. Sora walks purposefully through the bustling, medieval streets of the capital. He soon spots a familiar sight, the friendly butcher Ollie's meat stall. He cheerfully greets Ollie, who offers him a fresh skewer as thanks. While eating, Sora explains that he is currently looking for work. Ollie asks if he has any specialized skills, like alchemy or medicine. Sora thinks for a moment before admitting he possesses no such talents. Ollie strokes his chin thoughtfully, saying he knows just the place. Sora looks up with curiosity, wondering where the butcher is sending him. Ollie tells him of a place where all sorts of jobs are gathered. He gives Sora simple directions. Head west down the main street. He tells him to look for a large, unmistakable building on the right. Sora is stunned to find himself standing before a real adventurers guild. He beams with excitement, feeling like he's in a genuine fantasy game. He wonders what kind of amazing and heroic people he will find inside. With a determined grin, he prepares himself to enter the legendary hall. He grips the handle and pushes the heavy wooden door open with force. The scene inside is a chaotic tavern with two men about to fight. Sora peeks through the door, his heroic image of the guild quickly fading. One of the brawlers lands a solid punch, sending his opponent flying. The man soars backward, crashing directly into the unsuspecting Sora. Lying on the floor, Sora groans that this is not what he imagined. He hears a woman cry out from above as something starts to fall. A massive stack of books topples from the counter, right on top of him. The receptionist, Michael, looks down in horror, apologizing profusely. She scrambles to gather the books, asking if this is his first time here. Sora is completely buried under the avalanche of heavy, leather-bound tomes. Michael explains that she was in the middle of restoring old books. Sora waves it off with a smile, insisting that he is probably fine. He then remembers his goal and asks if he can find work here. Michael happily explains that he first needs to register with a drop of blood. Sora nervously holds the small knife, preparing to make a small cut. He holds out his finger, a single, dark drop of blood forming at the tip. The drop lands on the blank card, creating a magical ripple. Inky script swirls across the card's surface as the magic takes hold. The card flashes with a brilliant light, signaling the registration is complete. His name, Sora, and the guild's insignia materialize on the card. Sora looks at his new, official guild card with a sense of awe. Michael cheerfully informs him that his white card signifies his E-rank status. Sora is a bit confused, repeating the term E-rank back to her. She points to a chart showing the adventurer ranks, from E up to S. She then gestures toward a large wall covered in papers. This, she explains, is the request board, where all jobs are posted. She adds that completing quests earns points, while failure brings penalties. Sora worries that he isn't strong enough for the jobs here. Michael reassures him with a kind smile, suggesting he start with something simple. He stands before the massive wall, overwhelmed by the hundreds of requests. He sees jobs for herb gathering, wolf hunting, and even finding a lost cat. He notes that the wolf subjugation quest would require a sword he lacks. Suddenly, an intimidating, masked adventurer looms over him from behind. The man grabs him, sneering that a twig like him can't fight wolves. Sora waves his hands frantically, stammering that he wasn't going to try. He trembles in fear, wondering why this terrifying man is accosting him. The man shoves him toward the board, telling him a delivery is more his speed. Terrified into submission, Sora frantically rips several delivery jobs from the wall. Clutching the requests, he begins to think the guild is a very scary place. Inside the Adventurers Guild, a voice confirms the delivery request has been accepted. Michael, the receptionist, worries if Sora can really handle 5 jobs at once. Sora reasons that delivery work is a good way to learn the city streets. Michael cheerfully presents an enormous, rickety stack of goods for the deliveries. Sora struggles through the guild hall, feeling the painful stares of the other adventurers. With a loud bang, the heavy wooden doors of the guild swing open. Finally outside, Sora lets out a sigh of relief, admitting how tense that was. He reflects that he never had to deal with such intimidating people back in Japan. Looking at his map, he realizes this world operates on completely different principles. He quietly wonders to himself if he has what it takes to survive here. Shaking his head, he tries to clear his mind of doubt and focus. "No, work first," he declares, resolving to head to the Commerce Guild. His first stop is the Commerce Guild, where he delivers 5 sacks of flour. Next, he cheerfully hands over 3 bags of herbs to the Apothecaries Guild. He continues his rounds, delivering another package to a man at his door. A happy family with 2 young children gratefully accepts a gift from him. In the town square, he hands a small parcel to a waiting woman. He completes his route, giving the final package to a kindly old woman. While eating an ice pop he got as a tip, he muses on the city's many guilds. He marvels that he feels no fatigue, realizing how useful his walking skill is. With a flash of light, he mentally summons his status panel to check his progress. He's thrilled to see his walking skill is now level 8, boosting all his stats. He analyzes the panel, noting the experience required for the next level has increased. He realizes with excitement that his skill points increase along with his level. Filled with hope, he thinks he can learn even more skills just by walking. He arrives at an elegant house for his final task and calls out, "Excuse me." The large wooden door creaks open with a heavy sound. A strikingly beautiful woman with 2-toned hair asks what he wants. Sora is immediately flustered by her appearance, thinking she looks like an actress. He nervously presents a letter, explaining he has a delivery for her. Her eyes widen in shock when he reveals the letter is from Rai Lenobar. A voice calls from inside, and she panics, telling Sora to wait right there. Sora is startled and confused by her sudden, intense reaction. The woman, Vanessa, flings the door open wide, startling him again. He watches, surprised, as she quickly snatches the letter from his hands. She stares down at the letter with a look of intense concentration. She then slams the door shut in his face, leaving him utterly bewildered. Sora is left speechless, still needing her signature to complete his report. The door flies open again, as she urgently tells him to go to Rai. With a flushed face, she shoves a new letter at him, begging him to deliver it. The letter is for Rai from Vanessa, sealed with a beautiful rose wax stamp. She pleads with him to take on this new request, and he nervously agrees. Walking away, Sora wonders what could have possibly been in that first letter. He arrives at Rai's much more modest, ramshackle house and calls out. The door creaks open, and a man with wild hair and goggles peeks out. Sora asks if this is Rai's home, and the man nervously confirms it is. Rai adjusts his goggles, looking weary as he asks who Sora is. Sora explains he is here to report on the letter delivery Rai requested. He then presents the new letter, saying he has something else for Rai. With a bright smile, he announces that the letter is from Vanessa. Rai is stunned into silence, barely able to comprehend what's happening. Sora looks on, confused by the man's completely frozen reaction. A deep blush suddenly spreads across Rai's face as he stammers Vanessa's name. He becomes hopelessly flustered, insisting it couldn't possibly be a love letter. A light blush appears on Sora's face as he realizes it definitely is one. Rai is completely overcome with a mixture of nervous sweat and excitement. Sora puts the pieces together, realizing this explains Vanessa's strange behavior. Steam practically pours from Rai's head as he short-circuits from emotion. Sora tries to make a graceful exit, telling Rai he'll be rooting for him. Rai stops him, begging him to wait, saying his heart will explode if he reads it alone. Sora waits patiently as Rai, trembling, begins to read the letter. A small clock indicates that 10 long, agonizing minutes have passed. Rai stares intently at the letter, his blush deepening with every word. The clock chimes and Rai snaps the letter shut, having finished. Sora cautiously asks him how it went, unsure of what to expect. Rai looks up with the biggest, most joyful smile, simply declaring, "Okay." Sora is taken aback, but relieved by the wonderful outcome. He congratulates Rai, who is so happy his tongue sticks out in bliss. As Sora leaves, Rai's very soul seems to float out of his body in sheer joy. Sora walks back through the city streets, his unusual task now complete. He smiles to himself, thinking he never expected to witness something so heartwarming. Arriving back at the guild, he feels it has been a very good day. He pushes open the heavy guild door, pleased with his day's work. Inside, a group of burly, intimidating adventurers turns to glare at him. Sora freezes in the doorway, startled by the sudden, tense atmosphere. He walks forward, thinking he should report quickly before trouble starts. At the counter, he places his forms down and tells Michael the deliveries are done. Michael is amazed that he managed such a large load without getting tired. Sora gets flustered, awkwardly attributing his impressive stamina to his skills. Michael leans in conspiratorially, asking if there was a letter from Rai among his jobs. She leans even closer, eagerly asking him what the final result was. Sora smiles warmly, reporting that it seems the two are now dating. The entire, noisy guild hall falls into a sudden, stunned silence. Sora begins to sweat, panicking that he must have said something terribly wrong. Suddenly, the entire crowd of adventurers erupts in a cheer and rushes toward him. He is lifted into the air, completely bewildered and asking what's happening. The adventurers toss him joyfully, shouting that it's time for a celebration. A massive, spontaneous party breaks out, with food and drink for everyone. The female guild staff squeal with delight, thrilled that the romance succeeded. One adventurer curses Rai for getting a girlfriend before he did. The scarred adventurer, Sephon, puts an arm around Sora, insisting he eat. An illustration shows a younger, radiant Vanessa chasing a shy, hiding Rai. Sephon explains with a grin that Rai's 27-year crush has finally been fulfilled. He pats Sora on the back, declaring him Cupid for bringing the two together. Sora looks at the celebrating adventurers, realizing they're surprisingly kind people. The intimidating, masked adventurer, Wurg, looms over him, calling out to him. Sora is terrified, thinking Wurg is angry and about to threaten him. Wurg explains he was just trying to stop Sora from taking on a dangerous quest. Sora is completely stunned by this unexpected and kind revelation. Werg asks if Sora really thought he was trying to kill him, calling the idea absurd. Werg looms over Sora, angrily demanding to know if his concern was a threat. Safan tells a confused Sora that Werg is just misunderstood and has a foul mouth. Sora finally understands that Werg was trying to point him toward a safer quest. He looks at the celebrating guild, realizing he judged them too quickly by their looks. Sora thinks to himself that if you actually talk to them, they're all kind people. Suddenly, the guild doors burst open as Rai is carried in like a hero. Rai, the man of the hour, is flustered and overwhelmed by the sudden attention. The entire guild raises their mugs to toast Rai and his new love. An adventurer asks a blushing Rai what his love letter said. Sora watches the heartwarming scene with a gentle, knowing smile. He erupts in a massive grin, shouting his heartfelt congratulations to Rai. Safan worries Sora is drinking, but Werg is only giving him grape juice. Under 2 crescent moons, Sora feels he is truly starting to love this world. A new chapter begins, with Sora now living at the inn run by Ollie. 1 week after being summoned, he wakes up with a cheerful good morning. He spends his days taking on quests and studying in the guild's vast library. He has made many new friends among the other adventurers, sharing food and drink. His reputation for reliability has grown, earning him specific delivery requests by name. With a confident smile, he prepares to check his status. He realizes he can now summon his status panel with just a thought. He's delighted to see his level has risen yet again. He now understands the system. Walking raises his level, stats, and skill points. He is surprised to see he has already accumulated 15 skill points. A list of acquirable skills, including swordsmanship and living magic, appears. He debates whether to learn presence detection or living magic. He makes his decision while looking out at the familiar sight of the inn. The next morning, he cheerfully tells the landlady he has exciting plans. He declares he's finally going outside the city, having learned new skills. A graphic displays his 4 new skills: detection, enhancement, living magic, and operation. He decides to level up his existing skills as well. He prepares to test out his new living magic for the first time. He is shocked as a week's worth of dirt is instantly washed away. Feeling refreshed, he stands on a hill overlooking the city and shouts in triumph. He heads to the guild to accept an herb-gathering quest. Michael notes it's his first quest outside the walls and wishes him luck. She asks if he is properly equipped for the dangers that await him. Sora pauses, remembering what he read about monsters in the library. Safan overhears, explaining the forest is full of wolves and goblins. He offers to take Sora to a good shop to buy proper equipment. Safan leads Sora down a narrow, winding alley in the city. He pushes open a door, warning that the shopkeeper is a bit gruff. They enter the weapon shop, and Safan gives a casual greeting. The stern, white-haired shopkeeper responds with a simple grunt. Sora looks around in boyish wonder at all the weapons and armor. Safan explains that Sora needs gear for his first trip outside the walls. Sora gulps nervously under the old man's intense, judgmental gaze. The shopkeeper blows a cloud of smoke and asks what Sora can do. Sora admits he's unskilled, but thinks swords are incredibly cool. The shopkeeper gives him a look of utter, withering disdain. He gestures to his sword, telling Sora to try and swing it. Sora notes the sword is small, but it's his first time holding one. He grips the hilt and is surprised by how heavy it feels. His attempt to swing the sword is clumsy, wobbly, and pathetic. The shopkeeper looks on from the shadows, completely unimpressed. Sora blushes, realizing he is a complete amateur with a weapon. The old man tells him a novice like him shouldn't go outside. He says the only weapon he can offer him is a large knife. He places a sharp, sturdy-looking knife on the counter. Sora is taken aback as the man explains this is for his safety. Safan agrees, telling Sora he must train and level up diligently. The word level up sparks a sudden, brilliant idea in Sora's mind. He remembers that swordsmanship was on his list of acquirable skills. With a click, he decides to spend 1 skill point to learn it now. A faint aura envelopes his hand as the skill instantly takes root. He looks at his hands, wondering if his plan will actually work. He politely asks the shopkeeper if he can try holding the other sword. The old man scoffs, saying it's pointless without proper technique. In a blur of motion, Sora's arm swings the sword with impossible speed. He executes a flawless, multi-bladed flourish, wielding two swords at once. Sora himself is shocked by the innate skill that now flows through him. Safan can only stare, his face a mask of pure disbelief. The shopkeeper's pipe drops from his gaping mouth in sheer astonishment. Sora nervously asks the old man what he thought of the display. The shopkeeper asks what he needs, and Sora states his budget of 1 gold coin. The old man slams his hand on the counter, his interest now fully captured. He tells Sora to wait as he disappears into the back of the shop. He returns moments later, his arms laden with a full set of gear. He places the equipment on a bench with a heavy thud. He presents a sword, chest plate, gauntlets, and a dismantling knife. Safan recognizes the rare sword, and Sora thinks it's incredibly cool. The shopkeeper states that the sword is a perfect fit for Sora. He explains the dragonhide armor is both protective and easy to move in. He tells Sora to do his best, and Sora gives a determined reply. Sora leaves the shop, thanking Safan for his help before they part ways. He stands before the massive city gate, ready for his first real adventure. A gate guard stops him, asking to see his identification before he can leave. Sora nervously presents his E-rank adventurer card, hoping it's enough. The guard inspects the card, confirming his identity with a nod. With a smile, the guard tells him he is free to pass through. Sora stammers out a thank you, still a bit overwhelmed by the formality. The guard wishes him luck and warns him to be careful of monsters. He turns and bellows the command to the other guards. Open the gate. With a deep, groaning sound, the massive iron portcullis begins to rise. Sora's face lights up with a blush of pure excitement. He's finally outside. He stands alone, facing a vast, untamed wilderness under a wide open sky. The sunlight and the scent of the wind are the first things to greet him. Clad in his new gear with a sword at his hip, he feels ready. He crests a grassy hill, taking in the breathtaking reality of this other world. He looks out at the unknown landscape and shouts a joyful yahoo into the wind. A warm, genuine smile spreads across his face, full of pure, unadulterated happiness. Sora sits on a grassy hill, realizing running makes him tired. A new chapter begins as he lies back, enjoying his freedom. A map shows his destination, an herb patch outside Elegia Kingdom. These special herbs are used to create stamina recovery potions. He stands in the forest, thrilled for his first real adventuring quest. He realizes he can't tell the valuable herbs from weeds. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him, and he knows what to do. With intense concentration, he activates his unique appraisal skill. His vision is now filled with labels identifying every single plant. He marvels that he can even see the quality of each herb. He understands better quality herbs will make much stronger potions. Excited by his discovery, he begins gathering all the valuable plants. Several hours of focused, diligent work pass by in the woods. He stands up proudly, his sack now completely full of herbs. He feels a sudden jolt of power course through his body. Checking his status, he sees his skills have finally leveled up. A sudden, sharp rustling from the nearby bushes startles him. He panics, realizing he forgot to activate his presence detection. His hand reflexively grips the hilt of his sword, preparing. He draws his blade, cautiously readying himself for the unknown threat. He wonders what could be approaching from the dark forest undergrowth. A tiny, fluffy, winged creature tumbles right out of the bushes. His eyes widen in complete and utter disbelief at the sight. He's stunned by what an unbelievably adorable little creature it is. He is immediately and hopelessly smitten by its overwhelming cuteness. Its stomach growls loudly, and he gently asks if it is hungry. He quickly digs through his backpack, searching for some rations. He pulls out two hard, blocky bars of preserved food. He offers a piece to the creature with a hopeful smile. He is overjoyed as the little creature begins to nibble it. He watches with a warm smile as it chews its food. The creature's ears suddenly twitch, its expression turning sour. With a grimace, it spits the food out in utter disgust. The poor thing collapses to the ground, looking terribly ill. Panicked, Sora apologizes and asks if the food wasn't good. He tries a bite himself and gags at the horrible taste. He kneels, apologizing profusely for his terrible mistake. To his shock, the small creature begins to float into the air. More creatures appear, assuring him that everything is all right. One of the fluffy beings drifts gently, just above his head. It lands softly on his hair and nuzzles him affectionately. Blushing, Sora asks if the creature wants to come with him. Its enthusiastic nod makes his heart completely melt with joy. He happily agrees, declaring they will now travel on together. The creature sparkles brightly, its face alight with pure happiness. He introduces himself as Sora, welcoming his new little friend. A sudden, jarring sensation sends a psychic alarm through him. His presence detection warns of 6 presences approaching at high speed. He realizes with a surge of dread that he cannot escape. A pack of huge, snarling monster wolves burst from the trees. 2 young women are fleeing before them, fighting for their lives. The short-haired warrior grits her teeth, her armor clearly battered. A hooded mage leans on her staff, sweating and exhausted. Sora watches in horror as the girls fight the vicious monsters. A wolf lunges forward with a roar, its jaws wide open. The warrior bravely intercepts the attack with her dual swords. A new chapter, Rurika and Chris, begins amid the chaotic battle. Hidden, Sora sees that the 2 girls are completely surrounded. He's stunned to see 2 girls fighting a pack of wolves. He recognizes their adventurer's gear and sees they're badly hurt. The warrior, Chris, shouts at her companion, Rurika, to fall back. Sora notes that one is a dual wielder protecting a mage. He recalls reading about monster wolves in the guild's library. The warrior is fast, but she's being overwhelmed by numbers. The mage is too exhausted to provide any magical support. The warrior is fighting desperately to protect her weakened friend. He realizes with grim certainty that their defeat is only moments away. He knows he should help them, but he is terrified to act. He fears he might die, having never been in a fight. Gripping his sword, he resolves that he must fight right now. A wolf lunges with a ferocious roar, its sharp teeth bared. Chris meets the beast's attack with a desperate cross-sword block. The sheer force of the blow knocks one sword from her hand. Her blade clatters to the ground, leaving her at a disadvantage. Chris gasps, shocked by the sudden loss of her weapon. Her eyes widen in terror as she realizes her grave situation. The wolves seize their chance and swarm the disarmed warrior. Rurika watches in horror as her friend is about to be killed. Her eyes widen as she cries out a desperate, terrified warning. In that instant, a primal, protective instinct flares within Sora. A wolf leaps through the air, aiming straight for the girls. Chris stares, frozen in fear at the beast about to strike. The wolf closes the distance in a terrifying, deadly blur. Another wolf lunges directly at the weakened and vulnerable Rurika. Rurika raises her staff, but the magic crystal is shattered. Sora appears in a flash, pointing with a wild, determined grin. His thrown sword embeds itself deep into the wolf's shoulder. Sora himself is stunned by his own sudden, reflexive action. The girls stare back, their eyes wide with disbelief and shock. Enraged, the remaining wolves turn their full attention back to Chris. Another wolf charges, knocking the off-balance Chris backward. Rurika cries out a warning as a wolf heads for Sora. Sora sees the beast charging, realizing the immense danger he's in. He knows that in this moment, he is facing certain death. He must fight back, but he is completely unarmed. His eyes dart frantically around the clearing, searching for a weapon. He spots the sword that Chris had dropped in the grass. He dives for the fallen sword, scooping it from the ground. A wolf lunges at the defenseless Chris, its jaws wide open. Sora bravely tackles the beast, driving the blade into its side. Sora is pinned beneath the heavy, lifeless body of the slain wolf. Nearby, Chris clutches her bleeding hand, the battle's toll now evident. He pants heavily, the adrenaline and shock coursing through his veins. A single, overwhelming thought cuts through the haze. She was saved. He looks up in surprise as the two girls begin to approach him. Chris and Rurika hurry to his side through the quiet forest clearing. He breathes a sigh of relief, thankful he was able to save them. The two adventurers stand over him, their expressions a mix of awe and concern. Chris offers a hand, sincerely thanking him for saving her life. Rurika quietly adds her thanks, acknowledging that he saved them both. Sora looks up at them, still dazed by the sudden turn of events. He takes her offered hand, a new alliance formed in the heat of battle. She pulls him to his feet, their handshake firm and full of gratitude. Rurika introduces herself, followed by the energetic warrior, Chris. Flustered and grimy, he stammers out his own name, Sora. The two girls share a warm, welcoming smile with their new acquaintance. Chris cheerfully suggests they dismantle the carcasses while they are still fresh. Sora stares back, completely bewildered by her pragmatic declaration. The gruesome word hangs in the air, alien and horrifying to him. The clearing is now a silent battlefield, littered with slain monster wolves. His new clothes are splattered with the dark, stark reality of combat. He looks on uncertainly, unsure of what is expected of him now. With a wink, Chris brandishes a knife, ready for the gruesome task. A new chapter begins for Sora, his first time dismantling a monster. Chris begins to instruct him on the grim but necessary adventurer skill. The visceral task makes him gag, and Chris asks if he is all right. He apologizes, explaining he is a new adventurer, and this is his first time. The girls are stunned, asking if this was truly his very first fight. He dismisses his incredible feat as nothing more than a simple fluke. Looking at his trembling hands, the weight of his actions settles in. But alongside the shock, a strange and unfamiliar feeling begins to surface. It's a bizarre sense of exhilaration, both foreign and intoxicating. He wonders about this strange thrill, a feeling completely unlike himself. Sora recalls the visceral thrill of the battle, a familiar, unsettling sensation. He remembers the moment his body moved on its own, throwing the sword. As Chris calls his name, he wonders what that strange, uncharacteristic feeling was. With a bright smile, Chris offers to teach him how to dismantle monsters. Rurika suggests Chris rest, but the warrior insists she is fine to teach. Chris declares that dismantling is an essential skill every adventurer must learn. Filled with new resolve, Sora enthusiastically agrees to learn from his companion. As she begins her lesson, Chris starts to recount their perilous adventure. She explains that they are D-rank adventurers on a simple honey-gathering quest. But upon finding the hive, they were ambushed by a pack of wolves. Rurika's magic let them escape the main horde, but 4 beasts pursued them. And that, Chris concludes with a sigh, is how their situation became so dire. She laments their failed quest while beginning the messy dismantling process. Sora is suddenly struck by how torn and revealing Chris's armor has become. She catches him staring and asks what he is looking at, misinterpreting his gaze. Flustered, Sora waves his hands frantically, insisting that it is nothing at all. Rurika then leans in impossibly close to him, her expression full of concern. She gently asks what is wrong, making the boy even more flustered and panicked. Rurika cheers him on as he grits his teeth and focuses on the task. He pulls the valuable magic stone from deep within the wolf's heart. The visceral act is too much, and he recoils, covering his mouth. From a distance, his new friends call out his name in concern. The results are clear. Rurika's work is neat, while Sora's is a mangled mess. He calls his work garbage, but Rurika kindly reassures him it is normal. Chris suggests they pack up the materials into their preservation bags for transport. Sora asks them to wait a moment, having an idea to help them. He closes his eyes and calmly activates his unique purification magic skill. With a great rushing sound, a torrent of magical water swirls into existence. The cleansing vortex envelopes the two surprised girls, washing away the grime. They stare in wide-eyed wonder as the magical water cleanses them completely. Sparkling clean, Chris thanks him profusely while Rurika adds her own gratitude. Chris is shocked he can use such a spell. Rurika adds it's incredibly rare. Sora realizes his skills are special and decides to be more careful with them. At the forest's edge, Sora prepares to carry their massive haul. He skillfully pulls the final rope knot tight, securing the heavy load. Chris worries about the weight, but Sora boasts of his luggage-carrying strength. Heaving the pack up, he cheerfully declares it's time to return home. Sora is completely dwarfed by the enormous bundle strapped to his back. In a quiet clearing, his fluffy companion, Shiel, floats peacefully. Sora looks back over his shoulder, searching for the small creature. The sun-dappled clearing is now completely empty. He murmurs in disappointment, realizing his mysterious friend has vanished. Turning forward, he resolved to continue the journey back to the city. Their first quest complete, the party heads towards the distant capital. They soon arrive at the impressive, multi-tiered Adventurers Guild building. Michael, the receptionist, greets Chris and Rurika with a cheerful welcome. She is surprised to see Sora, whom Chris explains they met on their quest. With a heavy thud, Sora drops the wolf parts, asking her to buy them. Michael stares in utter shock at the incredible quantity of meat. She happily offers to have the guild butcher process it all for free. Sora is so flustered by her kindness that he is rendered speechless. Chris and Rurika look on, completely baffled by his strange reaction. He then presents his herbs, leaving Michael once again amazed by the amount. Another guild worker arrives with a trolley to haul away their bounty. Michael then remembers to ask about the girl's original Killer Bee request. Chris admits with disappointment that they failed, unable to approach the nest. A close-up shows her somber expression after reporting their failure. Suddenly, the guild hall fills with tense whispers about a wolf pack. Sora feels a chill, sensing the sudden, ominous shift in the atmosphere. The sound of determined footsteps echoes as someone important approaches. Michael identifies the stern man as the guild master arrives at her counter. He urgently asks if the rumors of a wolf pack near the capital are true. The three adventurers watch on, their expressions becoming grim and serious. The guild master roars that this has never happened before. The other adventurers in the hall stop their chatter, sensing the emergency. He orders Michael to report the dire news to the other guilds immediately. The guild master turns, delivering a stern command to be extremely careful outside the capital. Sora, Chris, and Rurika stand together after their successful but harrowing adventure. Sora, still processing, remarks on how incredibly intense the fight became. Chris cheerfully announces that the wolf meat they gathered sold for a good price. Sora tries to offer them half the reward, feeling he didn't earn it all. Chris invites him to dinner as a thank you, saying they need to talk. She suggests a restaurant that cooks meat you bring, using Sora's dismantled parts. The girls wave goodbye, agreeing to meet him at sunset after stowing their gear. As they walk off, Rurika leans in close to Chris with a knowing look. Rurika playfully teases Chris, asking if she has perhaps fallen for Sora. A flustered Chris denies it, chasing a giggling Rurika down the cobblestone street. Sora watches them go, smiling at how well the two of them get along. He reflects on their close bond as an adventuring party. He briefly wonders if things would be different for him with a better status. He imagines himself standing proudly alongside the 6 other summon heroes. Shaking off the bittersweet thought, he acknowledges that path is closed to him. Deciding to rest, Sora turns and heads back toward his inn. That evening, they meet at the restaurant, its sign hanging over the door. Sora stares in awe at the feast, asking if this is his wolf meat. Chris proudly states the chef is top class, a place they sometimes visit. He takes a bite, his eyes lighting up with pure, unadulterated delight. Ruriko watches his honest reaction, a faint blush appearing on her cheeks. Chris smiles warmly, happy to see him enjoying the meal so much. He exclaims how delicious it is, amazed by the food's incredible transformation. Chris is glad he likes it, noting he must be new to the area. She correctly guesses that he is not from this country. Sora explains he is from a place so distant his own name feels foreign. Chris then asks why he chose to become an adventurer in this kingdom. He hesitates for a moment, thinking about how to answer her question. He declares with a brilliant smile that his dream is to walk the world. His simple, heartfelt ambition leaves both girls momentarily stunned into silence. They both agree that it is a truly wonderful and amazing dream. Chris then turns to her friends, a serious new idea forming. She explains that they too are travelers, only staying here for a little longer. She exchanges a quick, meaningful glance with Rurika, who nods in agreement. She reiterates that their time in this country is limited. With a bright, hopeful smile, she asks Sora to join their party. Sora is completely floored, stammering if she really means a party with him. His shocked cry echoes out from the restaurant into the starry night. He stares at them, his eyes wide with utter disbelief. He repeats her offer, asking if they truly want him in their party. He protests that it's a dream, but he's just an ear anchor who would be baggage. He insists there are many other adventurers who are far stronger than him. Chris tells him he is honest and doesn't pretend to be something he's not. His excitement and his struggles are always plain to see on his face. She says it's because of his honesty that she wants to adventure with him. Overwhelmed by her sincere words, Sora quietly thanks her. He shoots to his feet, knocking his chair over, and enthusiastically accepts her offer. Both girls smile warmly, welcoming him to their newly formed team. A new chapter begins, titled The 7 Great Nations, as the party rests. Sora recalls that the girls had mentioned they were on a long journey. Back at the restaurant, he asks where the two of them are from. They tell him that they are from the ELD Republic. Chris adds with a laugh that it's a bit of a mess right now. Sora recognizes the name as one of the 7 great nations. He recalls a map from the guild showing the world's 7 major powers. The human supremacist Borsvale Empire, which oppresses other races. The human-centric Elegia Kingdom, which favors its human population. The diverse ELD Republic, where many different races coexist in harmony. The Ras Beast Kingdom, a nation ruled by the powerful king of beastmen. The Friar and Holy Kingdom, a theocracy that devoutly worships the goddess. The Urfa Archmagocracy, a nation founded and run by magic researchers. The Ruffled Dragon Kingdom, a mountainous country that reveres dragons. He remembers reading that the Borsvale Empire declared war on the ELD Republic 10 years ago. The conflict then spread, engulfing all 7 of the great nations in war. The world grew weary under the shadow of the endless, inconclusive fighting. During that time, the Friar and Holy Kingdom received a divine revelation. The 7 nations forged a truce to fight the new monstrous threat. Monsters still emerge from the Black Forest, attacking the 2 bordering nations. Sora realizes that since they're from the ELD Republic, the war must have affected them. Chris confirms this, saying their village was completely destroyed in the fighting. Sora is struck by the immense hardship his new friends have endured. He is truly in awe of their incredible resilience and strength. He passionately declares he will do his best to be a source of strength for them. The girls thank him for his heartfelt words with bright, genuine smiles. Chris then asks Sora what his plans are for the following day. Sora says he was planning on deliveries, but confirms that he is free. Chris is glad to hear it, a new plan already forming in her mind. She leans forward with a mischievous smile, saying she wants to do something with him. Sora is flustered by her suggestive tone, wondering what she could possibly mean. An establishing shot shows the impressive, multi-tiered Adventurers Guild building. The next day, Sora and Chris face off in a training yard with wooden swords. Chris wears a confident, determined smirk, ready for their sparring match. Sora nervously asks Rurika what is happening as he holds his practice sword. Chris explains she was intrigued by his precise, instinctive attacks during the wolf fight. Sora sweats, attributing his uncanny ability to his powerful swordsmanship skill. Chris declares she wants to test that skill's limits, ignoring his protests. She kicks off the ground, launching herself forward with incredible speed. She leaps through the air, bringing her dual blades down on a terrified Sora. Sora barely manages to block her powerful overhead strike as the wood clashes loudly. He grits his teeth, straining under the sheer force of her aggressive attack. She presses her advantage, taunting him for only defending against her flurry of blows. Panting, Sora realizes he has left his flank completely open during the exchange. He sees the opening as his one chance to finally launch a counterattack. A sharp sound effect emphasizes the sudden shift in the battle's momentum. Sora marvels at his skill, feeling the sword move exactly as he wills it. Suddenly, his instincts scream a warning as Chris prepares an unexpected move. His eyes widen in shock as he senses the true nature of her attack. She feigns an attack with her dual swords, drawing his attention upwards. He realizes she was setting him up, the real attack coming from behind. He pivots just in time, blocking her powerful kick with his wooden sword. High above, Chris's practice sword shatters Sora's with a decisive crack. In the training yard, Sora falls as his broken sword hits the ground. The other adventurers watch the conclusion of the spar, utterly stunned. Sora sits on the ground, defeated, but looking up in surprise. He is completely overwhelmed, realizing Chris is just too strong for him. Chris smiles, telling him his speed is good, but his technique is too direct. Sora admits that his own movements sometimes feel erratic and unpredictable. She tells him he has potential, but it is still too early for him. Suddenly, Sora's eyes widen in absolute shock at something he sees. He stammers, asking the floating creature if it's the one from the forest. Chris asks what's wrong, as Sora realizes she cannot see Shiel. The fluffy creature, Shiel, floats right up to Sora's face, looking concerned. Sora softly asks if the little creature is worried about him. In a soft pop, Shiel vanishes, leaving Sora staring at empty air. Rurika and Chris rush to his side, worried the intense training was too much. Brushing off, Chris cheerfully asks what their next quest should be. She suggests they try a subjugation quest to help with Sora's training. Safan interrupts, offering to train the promising newcomer himself. The newly formed party stands together before the massive request board. Chris explains that to travel the world, Sora must become much stronger. She asks if he has ever been camping, and he nervously says no. He is thrilled at the prospect of spending a night outside the city. Chris thinks a goblin quest will be good practice for a beginner swordsman. Sora feels he's holding them back from accepting higher-rank quests. Chris insists this is her way of thanking him for his help. Sora, his heart full, thanks them both for their consideration. Holding a quest notice, Chris explains what to look for on expedition requests. She outlines the provisions needed for their 6-day trip to Sai Village. While the reward is high, she warns that expenses can also be costly. With their plans set, she announces their departure for the next morning. A close-up shows Sora's happy and determined expression. He thinks to himself that even with so much to plan, it's all fun. Night falls over Ali's Inn, the sky dotted with countless stars. A bag packed with provisions rests on the floor of Sora's room. He lies in bed, too nervous and excited for his first camping trip. He can't sleep, feeling like an elementary school kid before a field trip. A soft, fluffy shape begins to materialize in the darkness of his room. Sora's eyes open in happy surprise as Shiel appears beside his bed. He asks the creature why it's here, wondering if it followed him. Smiling gently, he thanks his mysterious friend for worrying about him today. Shiel puffs up and shakes, seeming to respond to his kind words. He reaches out a hand, asking if it can understand what he's saying. He gently tries to pet the creature's soft, fluffy head. His hand passes straight through Shiel as if it were a hologram. Sora's eyes widen as he realizes his hand went right through it. Shill puffs up in annoyance and zips away from his touch. He apologizes, explaining it just looked so soft he had to try. As it fades, he thinks he was just glad to see it again. Just as he drifts off, Shill quietly reappears above him. The creature settles down gently beside his pillow as he sleeps. Sora sleeps peacefully, with his new companion watching over him. A map shows their route, a 3-day journey south to Sai Village. 2 hours later, they walk a lonely path through a vast grassland. Sora looks out over the endless, soft-looking sea of grass. He feels a sudden, overwhelming urge to dive into the fluffy meadow. He feels a moment of guilt, then decides to just go for it. With a loud shout of dive, he leaps head first into the tall grass. Chris laughs from the meadow, urging the others to join her. Sora and Rurika look on, amused by her carefree joy. The three of them lie back, enjoying the soft grass and clear blue sky. Chris rolls around happily, stretching out in the warm sun. Suddenly, she cries out in disgust after rolling into something wet. She sits up covered in mud, having found a swampy patch. Sora uses his purification magic, washing them clean in a swirl of water. Rurika giggles softly, watching her friends play. She grips her staff, a fond smile on her face. Sora checks his status, noticing his MP was used for the spell. He realizes that he has learned about several different types of skills. He now understands they are categorized by the resources they consume. Active magic, like his purification spell, uses up his MP. Skills like appraisal drain his SP for as long as they are active. Passive skills like swordsmanship provide a constant benefit with no cost. He recalls fainting when he tried using a skill with no MP or SP. He makes an incredible discovery. His SP doesn't drain while he walks. It's a blessing from his walking skill, which also prevents fatigue. He realizes he can use multiple skills at once without draining his SP. A wondrous smile spreads across his face, realizing his skill is amazing. Chris suddenly exclaims in wonder at a swarm of beautiful creatures. She marvels at how colorful and vibrant they are. The party stops, wondering if they are looking at a type of butterfly. Sora activates his appraisal skill to learn more about them. His eyes widen slightly as the information appears in his vision. The appraisal reveals they are winged grass, a plant unique to Elegia. He is astounded to learn they are plants with a fragrant, sweet nectar. A new, powerful thought strikes him. He wants to eat one. Chris and Rurika look over at him, curious about his sudden reaction. He explains they are edible plants and asks if they want to try. Rurika is immediately on board, while Chris smiles, intrigued. Chris seems a little hesitant about eating a strange, unknown plant. Rurika playfully prods her, saying she's curious what it tastes like. With a determined grunt, Chris makes up her mind. A confident, almost mischievous smirk crosses her face. She leaps into the air with a happy shout to catch one. The party has fun catching the floating winged grass in the meadow. Chris shows them the central tube where the nectar can be found. The three of them take their first sip from the sweet stems. Their faces light up with pure, sparkling delight at the taste. Sora raves about the sweet, fruity flavor with its many complex layers. Chris asks if the wing parts are edible too, and Sora confirms it. She smiles brightly, deciding it's the perfect time to take a break. Inspired by a strange, butterfly-like plant, Chris brightly suggests making a delicious meal. For their very first camp meal, an excited Sora and Rurika agree to cook. Their first culinary creation is a fresh salad made from the plant's colorful petals. Sora takes a curious first bite of the salad, unsure what to expect. A satisfying crunch fills his mouth, his expression one of pleasant surprise. "Delicious!" Sora exclaims, his delight shared by his two happy companions. He marvels at the crunchy, sweet, and sour flavor, comparing it to a fruit. Chris muses that the plant's nectar would be perfect spread on some bread. Suddenly, Her eyes go wide with alarm as she spots something in the meadow. A large, dark-furred wild bull has wandered into the field near their camp. "Let's go, Rurika," Chris says as they both adopt determined combat stances. Sora watches in panic, thinking they are about to attack the massive beast. The two girls charge forward, not to fight, but with a different plan in mind. Rurika raises her ornate staff, channeling magical energy for a powerful spell. With a decisive hand gesture, Chris moves with swift, focused precision. The bull now rests peacefully as Chris begins to milk it into a bowl. Fresh milk streams into a bucket, a surprising and valuable bounty from the wild. Sora stares in utter disbelief, realizing they are milking the wild animal. He stammers that he was sure they were going to kill the creature. Rurika explains that they always try not to kill creatures that mean no harm. Sora learns they simply borrow resources, a philosophy of sharing with the world. By chance, their foraging also leads them to a nest of unique, translucent eggs. They mix the fresh milk, eggs, and sweet winged grass nectar in a bowl. Slices of hard bread are left to soak up the magical, sweet mixture. Chris swiftly clears a patch of grass, preparing a small, simple fire pit. Sora kneels and activates his living magic, conjuring a small, dancing flame. In a frying pan gifted to him by Ollie, a knob of butter begins to sizzle. He carefully places a slice of the soaked bread into the hot pan. The bread sizzles beautifully, frying to a perfect golden brown in the butter. The finished meal is a work of art, French toast with winged grass syrup. Sora holds the plate, marveling at the sweet aroma of this wonderful world. The girls present hot milk and galettes, completing their divine-looking feast. The three sit together, offering thanks before beginning their amazing meal. The blue sky stretches endlessly above them on this perfect afternoon for a picnic. A gentle breeze blows across the plains, making the delicious meal even better. They eat with pure joy, declaring the food to be the absolute best. Sora savors the combination of sweet nectar and fragrant leaves, a perfect pairing. Chris never imagined she would eat something so delicious while out on an expedition. As Chris comments on the food, Sora's invisible companion, Shiel, quietly appears. Sora spots his fluffy friend joining their feast, unseen by the others. He discreetly holds out his fork, offering a small bite to the creature. Shiel happily nibbles the food from his fork, a silent partner in their meal. Sora smiles to himself, thinking how adorable his mysterious little friend is. Rurika continues eating, unaware of the fluffy creature munching happily nearby. Sora praises the delicious food, and the girls beam with pride at his compliments. Rurika feels a pang of sadness, wishing she could speak more easily with Sora. Chris notices her friend's quiet and slightly troubled mood during the happy meal. She realizes Rurika is too nervous to speak freely and decides to help. Rurika laments aloud, wishing for a magic bag to carry their delicious food. Chris explains that expensive magic bags can preserve fresh food perfectly. She cleverly steers the conversation, mentioning a rare ability called spatial magic. She gives Rurika an encouraging wink, knowing this is her area of expertise. Rurika is flustered, realizing she has been put on the spot to explain. She takes a deep breath, mustering the courage to share her knowledge. Though nervous, she begins her passionate explanation of spatial magic. She gathers her thoughts, preparing to explain the complex and rare magic. It's a magic, she begins, that allows one to manipulate space itself. Its most famous application is storage magic, for keeping items in another dimension. Sora learns that it stops time for stored items, keeping them perfectly fresh. Its users are rare and highly sought after, despite their low combat power. She finishes her lecture, exhausted, and the others praise her excellent explanation. "How convenient," Sora says with a smile, wishing he could use it too. Rurika looks shyly pleased by his genuine interest in her favorite subject. He thinks back, recalling the list of skills that were available to him. He's certain that spatial magic was not on the list when he last checked. This makes him wonder how people in this world normally learn new skills. He asks Chris, explaining that his own living magic just appeared one day. Rurika is surprised, explaining that people usually awaken to magic suddenly. Sora learns that for most, acquiring new magic is a matter of pure luck. She adds that one can also learn from grimoires, but they're hard to read. Sora thanks her for the valuable information, a bright smile on his face. An awkward silence falls over the group after the intense magic lesson. Sora panics, trying to think of something to break the awkward silence. He suddenly summons a fluffy futon with his living magic to lighten the mood. The girls stare back at him, their expressions completely deadpan and unimpressed. Just kidding. He laughs nervously, his attempt at humor falling flat. After that, they continue their journey, walking a great distance with many breaks. Sora, who never tires, wonders at the incredible stamina of his companions. As they walk, a strange, prickling sensation runs down Sora's spine. He quickly glances over his shoulder, but sees nothing behind them on the path. The path stretches out behind them, vast and empty under the wide sky. He can't shake the distinct and unsettling feeling that they are being watched. The girls ask if he's all right, but he quickly dismisses their concerns. He recalls feeling this same unseen gaze even when he was back in the capital. He wonders if it's the royals, but dismisses the idea as illogical. To be safe, he decides to acquire a new, defensive skill with his points. He acquires appraisal jamming, a precaution against his mysterious observer. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the vast plains. Chris spots a large tree, suggesting it's the perfect place to make camp. Sora is filled with excitement at the prospect of his very first real campout. Before they prepare dinner, Chris says there's something important they must do first. She suggests they share information about their skills for better teamwork in a crisis. Chris explains her skills are focused on physical enhancement and reconnaissance. Rurika states that she uses living magic, as well as fire and wind magic. Rurika asks about his skills, assuring him he doesn't have to share everything. Sora understands he doesn't need to reveal all of his abilities to them. He worries his other low-level skills might make him a liability in a real fight. After a moment of careful thought, he decides which skills to share. He declares his skills are living magic and transportation, which makes sense to Chris. With their skills now shared, they begin preparing their simple camp dinner. Chris explains that camp food usually consists of simple soup, bread, and dried meat. Sora realizes the delicious, fresh meals he's had so far have been a rare luxury. As he prepares to eat, the reality of a true adventurer's life sinks in. Chris laments the bland food, and Rurika notes this is why spatial magic is so valuable. The campfire crackles brightly as darkness begins to settle over the plains. With a gentle smile, Chris observes that the sun has now completely set. She suggests they establish a watch schedule, offering to go first with Rurika. Sora cheerfully declares he'll be fine alone, thanks to his special skills. He eagerly volunteers for the first watch, too excited by the journey to sleep. Chris agrees to his offer, and Rurika gives a small, grateful bow. The two girls wave goodnight as they head off to their tent to rest. Rurika quickly falls asleep, clutching her large magical staff. In the quiet of the night, the campfire pops and hisses softly. A voice calls out to Sora from the darkness, breaking the silence. He turns to see Chris emerging from behind a large, nearby tree. She asks if he has a moment to talk, just the two of them. Crouching by the fire, Chris congratulates him on their first day of travel. She admits she was worried he might be tired, but sees he's perfectly fine. His resilience, she says, is expected for someone with a dream as big as his. A blushing Sora stammers out a thank you for her kind words. He excitedly returns the compliment, praising her and Rurika's amazing camping skills. Curious, he asks what has been the most memorable part of their 3-year journey. Chris pauses for a moment, her expression thoughtful as she searches her memory. She eventually settles on her visit to the fighting arena in the Empire. Sora recognizes the name as the infamous and aggressive Borsvale Empire. She explains she was invited once, but hated the spectacle of it all. Sora listens intently, agreeing that it doesn't sound like a pleasant experience. But her mood quickly brightens as she remembers all the good times they've had. The greatest joy, she explains, comes from seeing the smiles of people they've helped. Those moments, she says, are what make her truly glad to be an adventurer. Sora understands completely, even though he is just a novice. He remembers the joyful faces of Rai and Vanessa, feeling that same warmth. The two of them share a heartfelt laugh, united by a common purpose. The fire crackles as another voice calls out Sora's name. Rurika joins them, happy to see Chris opening up to their new friend. She thanks Sora for getting along so well with Chris. Sora insists the pleasure is all his, as he loves traveling with them. Rurika smiles, calling Sora a good person, but her expression turns serious. She warns him with fierce intensity that she'll never forgive him if he gets hurt. Sora is stunned into silence by her powerful, protective declaration. Chris stands, cheerfully saying that was all she wanted to talk about. She waves goodnight to Sora as she heads off to get some rest. Sora waves back, wishing her a good night in return. He settles back into his solitary watch under the trees. Staring into the flames, he reflects on the conversation. Chris's fierce words echo in his mind. He recalls her warning, "I'll never forgive you if you get hurt." He vows to cherish these girls, his first companions in this new world. He thinks about how he never had such close connections back in Japan. Suddenly, his mysterious, fluffy companion Shield appears before him. It's not alone. A whole group of the creatures tumbles playfully near the fire. One of the shield creatures tries to mimic the fire with a puff of air. It puffs itself up, its ears standing on end with comical effort. With a sad little pop, it deflates, its transformation attempt a failure. Sora looks on with concern, asking if the little creature is all right. It puffs its cheeks in adorable frustration, clearly annoyed. Sora lets out a small laugh, relieved that it's okay. Another of the creatures floats by, looking much more determined. It begins to shimmer and change its shape in midair. It successfully transforms into a perfect, floating replica of Sora's face. Sora stares in utter disbelief, calling out his own name in shock. The floating face dissolves back into a puff of light with a soft sound. He watches in awe as the shield creatures begin to rise into the night sky. They ascend into a breathtaking expanse filled with countless stars. He whispers that he has never seen such a beautiful, magical sight. He is completely mesmerized by the otherworldly view before him. He reflects that this is his first time truly working alongside anyone. Since arriving in this world, everything has been a new first for him. He resolved to connect with his new friends in his own sincere way. He will approach his new relationships with an open and honest heart. He sits under a great tree, his heart filled with thoughts of his precious friends. The next morning, Sora is woken by the cheerful, upside-down faces of his companions. Chris announces that she will start baking bread for their breakfast. Rurika turns to Sora and asks if he wants to wash his face. She then blasts him with a powerful jet of purification magic. Startled, but feeling clean and refreshed, Sora thanks her for the magical wake-up call. Rurika looks on, her face flushed with the effort of casting the spell. She then runs off to join Chris, leaving Sora to gather his things. With renewed energy, the party sets off for another day of travel. Their boots crunch rhythmically on the dirt path as they walk onward. Sora feels a familiar chime as a small status panel appears in his vision. He has reached level 18, and his appraisal jamming skill has also leveled up. To his delight, a new skill has been added to his list, spatial magic. He immediately recalls Rurika's passionate explanation of the powerful magic. Realizing this is the storage ability he's been dreaming of, he vows to acquire it. A chime sounds as he invests his skill points, making spatial magic his own. He decides to immediately test out his new power on his large backpack. He focuses his mind and activates the storage magic skill. A system message pops up in front of him, but his bag remains on his back. The message explains that at level 1, he cannot store an object so large. He understands that he will need to level up the skill to increase its capacity. He decides to start small, pulling out a leftover ration bar to practice on. With a soft pop, the bar vanishes, appearing on his new storage list. He also takes the opportunity to acquire parallel thinking and natural recovery up. The girls notice he's lagging behind and ask if he's okay. He quickly runs to catch up, his new skills now a part of him. He decides to keep his new abilities a secret until he can use them properly. The party of 3 continues their long journey across the vast, open plains. They travel onward, their destination still days away on the horizon. As evening approaches, they finally reach the edge of a forest and set up camp. 2 days later, the party of 3 ventures into the deep, sun-dappled woods. Sora observes how far into the forest their destination, Sai Village, truly is. Consulting a map, Chris explains it is a lumberjack settlement and should be nearby. They finally arrive at a broken wooden fence, the ominous entrance to the village. The party looks upon the dilapidated huts and shattered fences of Sai Village. Sora voices his growing unease, remembering the quest was for a simple goblin subjugation. A small, frightened boy with wide, terrified eyes peeks out from the broken fence. Recognizing them as adventurers, the boy urgently asks them to follow him inside. He runs ahead, shouting for the village elder that the adventurers have finally arrived. Sora, Chris, and Rurika exchange worried glances as they follow the hopeful child. The boy waves them into the desolate village, a stark scene of poverty and fear. Anxious villagers gather outside a large hut, their faces a mix of hope and despair. Inside, the 3 adventurers sit before the weary village elder, who bows low. The trio listens intently, their expressions grim as they sense the gravity of the situation. The elder begins to speak, his voice soft as he offers a pained apology. He repeats his apology with desperate force, his expression filled with shame and regret. The party is taken aback by his emotional plea, their eyes wide with surprise. He thanks them for coming, explaining the village is under constant goblin attack and at its limit. Chris questions him, stating the quest they accepted was only for about 5 goblins. The elder clarifies that at first there were few, but their numbers have steadily grown. Chris and Rurika understand the dire situation, their expressions filled with sympathy. Chris asks why, if the numbers were growing, they didn't update the quest. Sora and Rurika realize this explains the unusually high reward for the mission. The elder explains with deep regret that it was truly beyond their means to do so. Chris, her expression tense, cuts to the point and asks for the current number. The elder hesitates, his head bowed, and whispers that there are now 10 of them. Chris is shocked by this revelation, exclaiming in disbelief at the number. He corrects himself, his voice trembling as he admits the number is actually 20. Chris's shock turns to a nervous sweat as she processes the escalating threat. Finally, the elder confesses the horrifying truth. It's a lie. There are 30 goblins. The party is stunned. Chris calls it fraud. Rurika is shocked, and Sora smiles weakly. Later, Chris asks the elder about the frequency of the goblin raids. He says they attacked last night and will likely return in 3 or 4 days. Chris confirms she understands, deciding they will rest tonight and scout the nest tomorrow. Sora sits alone, contemplating that he must now take lives by his own will. He clenches his fist around his sword hilt, his hand trembling with apprehension. As he sits in troubled thought, the small village boy quietly approaches him. The boy runs up to him with a hopeful expression, calling out, "Adventurer!" With shining eyes, the boy offers a heartfelt thank you for coming to their aid. Sora looks back at the child, his grim expression softening at the boy's gratitude. The boy stands before him in tattered clothes, a symbol of the village's hardship. The camera lingers on the broken fences, evidence of the goblins' repeated attacks. Overturned flower pots show the senseless cruelty of the creatures who plague the village. Sora looks on silently, taking in a scene of devastation and despair. The small boy begins to cry, his body shaking with sorrow and fear. He sobs that the goblins killed all the chickens, including his beloved pet, Paikichi. Sora's expression hardens, recalling that goblins cruelly delight in the suffering of others. His eyes suddenly widen as he notices something alarming on the boy. He exclaims in concern, pointing to a deep, ugly scar on the boy's arm. The boy bravely insists that he is fine, saying he's not the only one hurt. Sora's gaze is filled with a mixture of pity and a growing, cold anger. He decisively reaches for a pouch on his belt, knowing what he must do. He pulls out a glass vial, a precious healing potion, from his supplies. He gently pours the potion over the boy's scarred arm, who watches in amazement. The wound glows and vanishes instantly, leaving the skin perfectly healed in its place. The boy whispers, "Wow," in utter disbelief at the miraculous healing. Sora kneels, offering the rest of the potion for him to share with everyone. The boy protests, knowing that such potions are incredibly expensive and valuable. Sora smiles, asking the boy to keep it a secret so his friends don't get mad. Clutching the vial, the boy looks up with gratitude and whispers, "Thank you." He declares that while he can't fight, he will cheer for the adventurers with all his might. Sora's hand tightens around a pouch at his side, his resolve solidifying. He clenches his fist, the boy's hopeful words fueling his determination to protect them. Looking at the boy with a firm gaze, he agrees with a simple, resolute, "Yeah." The next morning, all the villagers have gathered to see the party off. The elder prays for their safe return as the party stands ready for battle. Their boots step firmly onto the grassy path, beginning their dangerous mission. They walk purposefully into the forest, leaving the hopeful village behind them. Chris reports sensing multiple presences to the southwest, confirming they're close. She apologizes to Sora, lamenting that his first real subjugation quest is so dangerous. Sora reassures her, saying they must do this for the sake of the villagers. Rurika promises her full support, while Chris gives a determined nod of agreement. Sora grips the front of his coat, steeling his nerves for the coming battle. He declares to the sky above the forest that he will give it his all. They find the goblin nest at a cave entrance, and Chris announces their strategy. She explains that Rurika will first use her magic to throw the goblins into chaos. Rurika unleashes a powerful vortex of wind, blasting the area around the cave entrance. Panicked and confused, the goblins begin to pour out of their nest in a mob. Chris leaps into the air, her sword drawn, ready to engage the fleeing creatures. She declares that she will strike them down as they emerge from their hiding place. She explains that she and Rurika will handle the main group of goblins head-on. Alone, dazed goblin stumbles away from the main pack, disoriented by the magic. Sora's job is to target and eliminate any of these separated goblins. He grips his sword tightly, his knuckles white as he prepares to engage his first enemy. He positions himself to intercept the stragglers as Chris battles the main horde. Seeing the grotesque creature up close for the first time, Sora's eyes widen. A lone goblin stumbles towards him, its face a mask of pure malice. Sora freezes, his face pale with sweat as the reality of the situation sinks in. He realizes with horror that he has to kill this living, breathing creature. Chris calls out his name, sensing his hesitation from across the chaotic battlefield. She tells him that she understands what he's thinking, but he must act now. She asks him to consider what will happen to the villagers if they fail here. Images of the ruined village flash by as she describes them losing everything. She cuts down more goblins, stating that no one can truly judge what is justice. But, she declares firmly, they at least do not want to see anyone suffer. A memory of her and Rurika as children, comforting others, flashes through her mind. Sora's eyes reflect her powerful words, his hesitation finally beginning to waver. The hopeful, desperate face of the village boy flashes vividly in his memory. A goblin lunges directly at him, its claws outstretched and its teeth bared. Sora's fear is finally replaced by a fierce grimace as he prepares to strike back. With a powerful swing of his sword, Sora cuts down a goblin. His eyes burn with cold resolve, his hesitation now completely gone. He touches his cheek, surprised to find that he is bleeding. "I'm okay," he shouts, insisting that it's just a graze. Thinking it's Chris, he thanks Rurika, but says the wound is nothing. She gently takes his hand, stopping him from waving her away. Sora looks at her, surprised by her quiet, firm gesture. Rurika kneels before him to tend his injury. She carefully presses a clean cloth against the cut on his cheek. A soft, green light emanates from her hand as she casts a healing spell. With gentle precision, she ties a clean bandage around his head. Sora looks up at her, flustered, and quietly murmurs his thanks. Rurika turns away, a slight blush coloring her own cheeks. From the side, Chris watches the two of them with a warm, knowing smile. Afterward, they gather the bodies of the slain goblins into a large pile. Chris explains this prevents them from rising as undead or attracting monsters. They stand in solemn silence, showing respect for the lives they took. Returning to the village, they stand before one of the simple wooden huts. Chris presents the proof of their success, reporting 34 goblins subjugated. The village elder sits before them, his face a mask of deep relief. He thanks the adventurers profusely, saying the entire village is saved. Chris scolds him for the inaccurate quest report, but he agrees to be careful. Smiling, the elder informs them a celebratory feast has been prepared. As night falls, a bright crescent moon hangs over the forest canopy. The three adventurers are honored guests, adorned with crowns of flowers. The entire village celebrates around a long table laden with delicious food. A woman with a baby on her back thanks them for saving the children. Two other women bow, grateful that their livestock is now safe. A crowd of villagers, young and old, eagerly shout their thanks. They raise their mugs in a joyous toast to their saviors. The three heroes look on, a little overwhelmed by the outpouring of gratitude. The small village boy gently tugs on Sora's sleeve. Sora turns to see the young boy whose arm he had healed. The boy gives him a beaming, heartfelt thank you. He is overjoyed that he can now play with his friends again. He looks up, worried, asking about the adventurer's injury. Sora smiles reassuringly, saying his reliable friends patched him up. The boy lets out a sigh of relief, glad that he is okay. With newfound determination in his eyes, the boy makes a declaration. He vows to become a strong adventurer and protect the village himself. Sora is visibly moved by the boy's earnest and noble promise. He gently places a hand on the boy's head, ruffling his hair. He tells the boy that he can definitely do it. Sora guarantees it. He adds that he'll have to get stronger too, so he won't be surpassed. The boy, overjoyed, stammers another thank you and agrees. His friends call out to him, waving sticks like practice swords. He shouts that he's coming, ready to join their game. He clenches his small fists, filled with a new sense of purpose. He runs off to join his friends in a game of adventurers. Sora reflects that today, for the first time, he took lives by his own will. He understands it was necessary, but still feels the weight of the act. He watches the village children laughing and playing without a care. He realizes that his difficult actions were what protected their smiles. He vows that he will never, for his entire life, forget this day. Back at the feast, Sora is amazed by the delicious food. Chris agrees, exclaiming it's a taste she has never experienced before. Rurika holds up a plate of thick, layered, and smoky meat. She encourages Sora to try some of the delicious-looking dish. Sora looks at the food, wondering if it could be bacon. He takes a bite and is immediately overcome with delight. The nostalgic taste of his homeland fills him with emotion. Chris asks the village elder what this incredible food is. The elder proudly explains it's their village's rare, specialty dried meat. Sora is surprised that bacon is considered such a delicacy here. He gets an idea, while Shiel floats nearby, also eyeing the food. He thinks to himself that the little creature is following them again. The elder, seeing Sora's delight, offers him the entire platter. He says they have a mountain of it, so he should eat his fill. In a flash, the entire platter of bacon vanishes into thin air. The villagers around them gasp, wondering where the food disappeared to. The elder is left holding an empty platter, utterly bewildered. Sora panics, realizing Shiel is the culprit and trying to think of an excuse. The villagers stare in shock at the impossible phenomenon. A man points at the empty plate and shouts that it's a spirit. The villagers panic, thinking the spirit is angry with them. A man reaches for Shiel, but his hands pass right through it. Shiel pops and vanishes, flying away as Sora watches it go. Chris is completely baffled, asking what on earth just happened. The elder explains that such events are known as fairy pranks. He says these are good omens, heralding a bountiful year for the village. The three adventurers listen, intrigued by this local folklore. The elder declares that today is truly an auspicious and wonderful day. The plates on the table are soon empty, the feast a roaring success. The villagers dance joyfully around a large, crackling bonfire. Sora and Rurika sit together, full and content after the amazing meal. Sora quietly wonders about the true identity of the fluffy white creature. He leans over to Rurika, asking if she knows about fairies and spirits. Rurika confirms that such magical beings are indeed said to exist. She explains that fairies resemble small humans with wings. They can understand human language and are known for their love of pranks. Spirits, however, have no fixed form and are closely tied to elves. She has heard that spirit magic users can communicate with them. Sora is amazed by her detailed and extensive knowledge. He praises her for knowing so much more than just magic. Rurika becomes flustered, unsure how to respond to the compliment. Sora looks at Shiel, concluding it must be a spirit. Across the celebration, Chris calls out to Sora and Rurika. She winks, announcing that the elder is giving them some of the meat. Sora and Rurika's faces light up with pure, sparkling joy. The party continues late into the starry, peaceful night. The village elder offers them a reward, declaring them the saviors of his village. Sora, curious, points to the hanging cured meat and asks about its preparation. The elder explains it's smoked with local wood, asking if he wants to know more. He then launches into a grand and passionate lecture about the smoking process. The girls are amazed by the time and care that creates such a delicious flavor. Sora asks if he can buy some of the special wood to try it himself. He admits the meat was so good that he's become very interested in making it. The elder says the wood is too common to charge for. He gestures to a massive pile, offering them as much as they want. Sora gratefully thanks the elder as he goes to fetch more. Sora stands before the huge pile, wondering how much he should take. Chris reminds him they can't carry that much on a 3-day walk. Sora smiles mysteriously, hinting that he has a solution to their problem. He activates his storage magic, and the entire woodpile vanishes into thin air. Chris and Rurika are left completely speechless by the impossible feat. Chris stammers, asking if he just used the legendary spatial magic. With a proud smile, Sora confirms that he did indeed use it. The girls erupt in praise, amazed by his incredible new ability. Chris declares that with this skill, he'll be scouted by high-rank parties. Sora asks them if they could please keep his new magic a secret. Chris is confused, asking why he would pass up the fame and rewards. He explains that even with the skill, he knows he is still very weak. He feels joining a high-rank party now would only make him a burden. He wants to gain more experience and become worthy of his powerful skill. Understanding his resolve, Chris agrees to keep his secret for him. Sora is relieved and thanks her for understanding his wishes. Chris playfully asks why he was so insistent on keeping his secret. He explains that joining another party would mean he couldn't be with them. He shyly admits that he still wants to continue adventuring with them. His heartfelt confession leaves both girls stunned and blushing. Flustered, Chris gives him a playful punch on the shoulder. She exclaims that of course they'll stay together, turning to hide her face. Rurika watches her friend's flustered reaction with a knowing silence. She then gently takes Sora's hand in a silent gesture of agreement. The three of them share a quiet moment, their bond now even stronger. They walk away together, ready for the next leg of their shared journey. On the road, Sora asks about a dish from their homeland called Pekanaduru. As the sun sets over the forest, they decide it's time to make camp. Rurika declares that this clearing is the perfect spot for the night. Chris asks Sora to handle dinner, and he eagerly agrees to do his best. Rurika playfully announces she'll make a backup meal in case Sora fails. Sora feels the pressure, but is excited to show them his cooking skills. He looks at the ingredients from the village, deciding what he can make. With a confident smile and his knife ready, he makes his decision. He begins by skillfully peeling the strangely marbled potato. He notes that it has the texture and taste of a regular potato. He confirms that while the skin is patterned, the inside is perfectly normal. He rough chops the potato, wishing he had a microwave to cook it. Lacking modern tools, he steams the chunks in his pan with salt and water. A quick taste test reveals it's a bit sweet, but quite delicious. He sets the cooked potatoes aside on a wooden plate for later use. He then presents the star of the show, the thick-cut, village-smoked bacon. He fries the bacon strips until they are perfectly crispy, just how he likes them. The savory aroma fills the campsite, making Chris and Rurika's mouths water. The girls comment on the amazing smell and the sizzling sound of the meat. Sora smiles, telling them it will be ready in just a little while. He adds the cooked potatoes back into the pan to mix with the bacon. He presents the finished dish to the two eagerly waiting girls. With a flourish, he announces the name of his creation, German potatoes. Chris and Rurika's eyes sparkle with delight at the sight of the meal. They decide to eat it alongside the soup that Chris had prepared. The meal is a huge success, and they praise his fluffy and delicious cooking. Sora enjoys his own cooking, noting how well the sweet potato and salty bacon pair. Chris is impressed, asking where he learned to make such wonderful food. He explains that his mother taught him, and that men should know how to cook. He happily recalls how he started cooking because his mother praised him. Rurika remarks on what a wonderful mother he must have. Sora compliments Chris's soup in return, much to Rurika's delight. Rurika starts a playful argument, declaring Sora's cooking is better than Chris's. The three of them debate back and forth over whose cooking is superior. Sora and Rurika turn to Chris, demanding she declare the winner. Chris hesitates, caught in the middle of their friendly competition. She throws her hands up and declares that they are both winners. Sora and Rurika share a silent, slightly embarrassed glance after their outburst. The small argument dissolves into shared, good-natured laughter between the three friends. Sora reflects on how much fun he's having, wishing this could last forever. His comment prompts Chris to ask a serious question about their party's future. Sora confirms that he knows they are in the middle of their own journey. Chris asks him how long he plans on staying in this country. Her question brings a serious, contemplative mood over the campfire. She explains their goal is to reach C rank before leaving the country. Sora quietly accepts the reality that their time together is limited. Rurika adds that they still need to complete more quests to get stronger. Chris looks at Sora, adding that there is another important reason to stay. She says that spending every day with him has been incredibly fun. Sora is touched by her words, realizing how much he means to them. With a bright smile, she asks him to stick with them a while longer. Sora agrees wholeheartedly, his face beaming with happiness. He knows that their eventual parting is drawing closer. He resolves to become much stronger in both skill and level. He must be strong enough to survive alone so they can part with smiles. Back at the guild, Michael is shocked by the large number of goblin ears. She notes Sora's injury, but he cheerfully insists he's completely fine. Michael offers to exchange his dirty bandage for a clean one. Sora is surprised by the offer, not sure how to respond. He pulls off the bandage, revealing the wound has already vanished. Rurika is shocked, while Sora is embarrassed by the unexpected attention. Changing the subject, Chris asks about the wolf pack they encountered before. Michael happily reports that the guild successfully subjugated the entire pack. Chris is relieved, glad that there weren't any strong ones left behind. Chris reacts with surprise to Michael's news about the wolves. Michael explains the guild master correctly predicted an alpha was leading the pack. Thanks to many high-rank parties, the threat was handled swiftly. The party is shocked to learn a powerful alpha was so close. Michael worries, as such a creature has never appeared here before. Sora somberly agrees that the situation is unsettling. The three adventurers leave the guild, their business concluded. Sora suggests they all take the next 2 days to rest. He walks away with a smile, heading back on his own. His fluffy companion, Shiel, suddenly materializes beside him. Sora warmly invites the floating creature to come home with him. He arrives back at the familiar and welcoming Ollie's Inn. Utterly exhausted, he collapses onto the soft bed in his room. He sighs, quietly reflecting on the intense mission he just completed. The visceral memory of the goblin fight is still fresh in his mind. A chill of fear runs through him as he recalls the danger. He knows that without his friends, he might have died. He resolves to become stronger, knowing he is still weak. He plans his training, focusing on walking to gain experience. A sudden realization hits him. He walked a lot on the quest. He eagerly summons his status panel to check his progress. He is amazed to see how much all his skills have leveled up. All his hard work and constant movement have clearly paid off. He notes 2 particular skills: parallel thinking and natural recovery. Parallel thinking allows him to effectively split his consciousness. This lets him rest one half of his mind while the other keeps watch. He can perform 2 roles at once, resting and being a sentry. He recalls a critical moment when his skills suddenly failed him. His SP ran out, and his vision went black as his power shut down. His natural recovery skill saved him by quickly restoring his energy. He reflects on how useful the skill is, given his tendency to overexert himself. When he arrived, he had nothing. Now he has skills and friends. He realizes with a surge of emotion that his new life is going wonderfully. But his excitement is cut short as he notices a detail on the screen. The experience needed to level up has increased dramatically. This means that earning skill points will be much harder from now on. He decides to save his points rather than learn new skills for now. With a smile, he accepts that he still has much to learn and consider. His hand brushes against his cheek, reminding him of his injury. He remembers the cut he received from the goblin during the fight. He gently begins to unwrap the bandage from around his head. He marvels that his recovery skill has already healed the wound completely. A fond memory of Rurika gently tending to him flashes in his mind. He looks down at the discarded bandage, a thoughtful expression on his face. He holds the simple strip of cloth, lost in the quiet memory. Shiel appears, playfully mimicking him by wearing the bandage. Sora is flustered by the creature's cute and mischievous teasing. Shiel's wing-like ears then curl into the shape of a heart. "You laughed, didn't you?" Sora exclaims, his face flushing red. He playfully scolds the creature, telling it to look at him. He remembers the village feast, realizing his days are always fun. This reminds him of what the village children had said. They had excitedly pointed at Shiel, calling it a spirit. He decides to finally identify his companion using his appraisal skill. To his shock, the powerful skill returns an impossible result. He shouts in disbelief, baffled by his mysterious friend. Back at Ali's stall, the butcher offers Sora some extra meat. Shiel muses that it has become very interested in food lately. It fondly recalls the delicious French toast and bacon from their trip. Sora scolds his companion for trying to eat in public. Shiel trembles, looking abashed by Sora's stern words. It suddenly zips away, flying towards the distant royal castle. Sora wonders why his companion always avoids going near the castle. The scene shifts to the bustling adventurers' guild hall. Inside, Saphon and Olgo greet Sora with wide, friendly smiles. Sora is surprised to see his friends drinking so early in the day. He joins them, explaining he's waiting for Chris and Rurika. Safan kindly orders a mug of juice for him from the waitress. The guild is quiet, with only a few patrons scattered around. Olgo leans in with a sly smirk, ready to start teasing. He asks about Sora's harem party with two beautiful girls. Sora proudly lists their recent accomplishments and monster subjugations. He mentions dismantling beasts and even taking on solo delivery jobs. He also tells them about their successful herb gathering mission. Safan is impressed, asking if they found a particularly good spot. Sora explains his success is thanks to his powerful appraisal skill. He admits he is trying to be discreet to avoid unwanted attention. His friends share a look, clearly unimpressed with this topic. Olgo slams the table, shouting that's not what he meant. He demands to know what Sora's relationship is with the two girls. He crudely comments on their physical appearances and personalities. Sora frantically denies that he looks at them in such a way. Olgo presses him, asking which of the girls he is dating. Safan leans in conspiratorially, asking if there is one he likes. Flustered and blushing, Sora quietly admits that there is. A quick cut shows Rurika happily enjoying a meal by herself. Sora is completely overwhelmed by their relentless teasing. Safan and Olgo look on, sharing a huge, knowing grin. Their fun is interrupted by the sound of the guild door creaking open. Chris and Rurika arrive, and Sora greets them with nervous energy. As Sora tries to get up, Olgo grabs his arm, telling him to wait. Olgo turns on the charm, smoothly inviting the ladies for a drink. They stare back at him, their expressions completely unimpressed. The newly formed group sits together at the large wooden table. An awkward, palpable silence hangs in the air between Sora and Rurika. Safan and Olgo watch the uncomfortable interaction with great amusement. They exchange a look, agreeing that one of them needs to intervene. Olgo decides to take matters into his own hands. He puts an arm around Rurika and asks if the cute Chris has a boyfriend. Chris stares back, her eyes wide with pure, unadulterated shock. Sora leaps to his feet, protesting Olgo's inappropriate comments. Olgo smirks, claiming he was merely calling the girl cute. Sora stammers, disagreeing with Olgo's crude approach to compliments. Olgo leans in, tauntingly asking if the girl is Sora's lover. He continues to needle Sora, questioning his relationship with Chris. Turning his attention to Chris, Olgo asks if she finds him handsome. With a deadpan stop, Chris slams Olgo's face into the table. Rurika sighs, understanding the impulse, but noting Chris's startling reaction. A dazed Olgo meekly apologizes from his spot on the floor. Sora watches the commotion end, a faint, relieved smile on his face. He and Chris then share a brief, slightly bashful glance. The two look away from each other, flustered by the recent events. Their mugs sit on the table as the awkward moment passes. Chris and Rurika then wave cheerfully to the other guild members. The trio stands before the request board, deciding on their next move. Chris tells Sora there is something she needs to confirm first. She asks about his E-rank status, noting he's close to ranking up. Both she and Rurika wear somber expressions, knowing what this means. Sora realizes that after their next quest, they will leave the country. Chris confirms that their next mission will be their last one together. Sora clenches his fist tightly, a pain he knew was coming. He wishes this precious time with his friends could last forever. As time ticks on, their remaining days together are few. Sora quietly states that their party will soon be disbanded. He looks at his friends and asks what their plans are now. Chris outlines their mission to Phoenix and their journey to Ras. Sora recalls his research on escort missions from the guild's library. He turns to the girls, an idea forming in his mind. He earnestly asks if he can join them on that final mission. Chris and Rurika look at him, surprised by his sudden request. He explains he wants to gain escort experience while he still can. He promises not to be a burden and will return after Phoenix. The girls exchange a look and then break into warm smiles. They happily agree, deciding to check if a trio is permitted. They successfully accept the C-rank quest, a 10-day trip one way. With 5 days until departure, Chris and Rurika decide to rest. Sora, however, is too restless and anxious to sit still. He throws himself into work, taking on more delivery jobs. He thinks about the girls, driven from their home by war. He wonders what the true purpose of their journey could be. His final delivery takes him to a new area, North 3rd Street. His boots tread the cobblestones of an unfamiliar, lively district. He finds himself in the city's entertainment district, a place of vice. Through a window, he sees patrons gambling away stacks of coins. Other men are seen embracing women in alluring outfits. Sora is stunned, his eyes wide at the seedy atmosphere. A familiar voice calls out, "It's Olgo," offering to show him around. Sora frantically denies any interest, insisting he is on a delivery. Olgo scoffs, sarcastically questioning Sora's excuse for being there. The women with Olgo recognize the delivery and invite Sora inside. Overwhelmed by their advances, Sora stammers a panicked refusal. He bolts down the street, shouting that he is on the job. After escaping, he pauses, still flustered by the chaotic encounter. With his delivery finished, he decides it is time to head home. He gets his bearings, looking for the way back to the guild. He suddenly spots a cloaked figure standing in a shadowy alley. He recognizes the long blonde hair. It is his friend, Chris. He is shocked, wondering why she would be alone in this district. A sleazy-looking man grabs her wrist, trying to give her money. Sora's mind goes blank with disbelief at the shocking scene. Chris pleads with the man to stop, her voice filled with distress. Sora watches, frozen for a second, his heart pounding in his chest. Snapping into action, he shouts her name to intervene. Chris turns toward his voice, her eyes wide with surprise. She cries out his name in relief and runs towards him. As she runs, she thanks him profusely for his help. She looks down, her expression unreadable after the close call. Sora is glad she's safe, but surprised to see her here. Chris, embarrassed, asks him why he was in such a place. Sora stammers, caught off guard by her turning the question on him. She worries he was up to no good, her face filled with concern. He quickly reassures her it was a misunderstanding, just a delivery. She looks down, relieved but still shaken by what happened. Chris tells Sora there is something important she needs to discuss. They meet up with Rurika at a quiet, nearby tea house. Rurika asks Chris if she went to the slave traders alone. She then turns to Sora, thanking him for protecting her friend. She sternly scolds Chris, telling her not to be so reckless. Chris apologizes, admitting she always relies on Rurika for help. She confesses that she just wanted to feel useful for once. Rurika thanks Chris for her intentions, her expression softening. But she reminds her that the world is dangerous and vigilance is key. Sora thinks that this is the first time he's seen Rurika truly angry. He then asks what it was they wanted to discuss with him. The two girls exchange a serious, knowing glance with one another. Chris apologizes for taking so long to tell him their story. Rurika reveals that they are on a journey, searching for someone. Sora is surprised and asks who it is they are looking for. Chris explains they are searching for their childhood friends, lost in the war. She reveals the true, heartbreaking purpose of their long journey. A flashback shows a young Rurika sobbing in utter despair. A young Chris comforts her, joined by their two other friends. They were a group of 4, with Sarah the Beastkin and Eris the Elf. Their peaceful life was shattered when the Borsvale Empire attacked. The 4 young girls could only look on in absolute terror. An old woman warned them that enemy soldiers were closing in. She screamed at them to escape into the forest and to run. The girls were determined that they would not be captured. They fled into a chaotic stampede of terrified, screaming villagers. In the crowd, Chris cried out for Sarah and Eris as they were separated. An old woman's voice rings out over the stampeding crowd. She tells the fleeing children to meet at the great Kusunoki tree. A young Rurika is terrified, caught in the desperate surge of people. She reaches out a hand, her face a mask of pure fear. The small girl is completely overwhelmed by the chaotic mob. The scene shifts to the quiet stillness of a sun-dappled forest. A massive, ancient tree stands as a silent, lonely landmark. A pair of small, scuffed feet walk a desolate, rocky path. Rurika, alone and disheveled, finally reaches the meeting place. She looks around the empty clearing, wondering where her friends are. A small, defeated figure sits huddled at the base of the tree. It's Chris, who looks up, her face streaked with tears. Rurika rushes towards her friend with open, desperate arms. They cling to each other in a tight, relieved embrace. They wept, for they would never see their other friends again. In the present, Rurika explains they travel to find those friends. Sora listens quietly, absorbing the weight of their tragic past. Now, only the two of them remain to confirm each other's safety. Sora understands their bond was forged in that terrible loss. He sees now how deeply they treasure one another. He quietly thanks them for sharing such a painful story. He asks if they have any clues that might lead to their friends. Chris explains that children captured in war were often sold as slaves. A map shows the 7 nations. Their friends could be anywhere. This is why they became adventurers, to travel and search for clues. Rurika reveals she made a special request before they left the capital. She paid a slave trader to report any news of Sarah and Eris. Chris gently reminds her friend to be more careful in the future. Sora thinks their search might be a path without a clear end. He knows he must ask a difficult, painful question. He points out that the war was a long 10 years ago. He asks how they can still believe their friends are alive. Rurika and Chris simply share a look of quiet, certain faith. They both place their open hands upon the table. Sora looks on in surprise at the items they reveal. In each of their palms rests a beautiful, teardrop-shaped amulet. He asks what these mysterious charms are. They are spirit charms, a set of 4, given by an old woman. Chris says the charms tell her heart that their friends still live. She smiles warmly, admitting she doesn't know why, but she feels it. Chris explains that they must continue their journey, even if they want to stay. Sora now understands that this quest is the foundation of their lives. They became adventurers, braving danger to find their lost family. He tells them he is proud to be in a party with them. He declares that he will help them search as he travels the world. The girls are stunned, insisting he can't get involved in their affairs. Sora smiles gently, telling them they are both mistaken. He is doing this because he truly wants to help them. His heartfelt declaration leaves them speechless and overwhelmed with emotion. A single tear rolls down Rurika's cheek. Across the table, their 3 hands reach for one another. Their hands clasp together, sealing a new, shared promise. Sora looks at them, his resolve now intertwined with theirs. With tears of gratitude, they thank him for his kindness. A system notification announces Sora's acquisition of 3 new skills. He knows he is being watched, but decides to act naturally. He's glad he got the cooking skill. Good food is essential for travel. He realizes the skill has given him vast knowledge of local ingredients. Out in the wilderness, he considers his plan for the day. He decides to test his new skills in the forest nearby. He finds a suitable clearing and sets down his heavy pack. But before he begins his tests, he has one thing to do first. He's feeling a bit hungry and decides to have a small snack. He uses his storage magic to summon his last piece of bacon. He looks down at the piece of meat, his expression puzzled. He cries out in shock. The bacon is covered in mold. He realizes his low-level magic doesn't perfectly preserve food. His fluffy companion, Shiel, appears to offer silent comfort. He thanks the little creature, wondering if it's telling him not to worry. With new resolve, he decides to make a fresh batch of bacon. He lays out strips of both pork and wolf meat to prepare. He struggles to whittle the wood for his makeshift smoker. He yelps in pain, having given himself a nasty splinter. He nurses his throbbing finger as Shiel looks on worriedly. He builds a small smoking rack inside his large pan. He places the meat on the rack, covers it, and waits patiently. His cooking skill tells him the wolf meat will take longer to smoke. He decides to wait a little longer before checking on the meat. As he waits, he hears a rustling sound from the nearby bushes. He spots two small, impossibly cute creatures peering out at him. He is instantly captivated, exclaiming how adorable they are. His appraisal skill identifies them as healing creatures called Mitra. He desperately wants to pet them, but they are too timid. An idea begins to form in his mind. He quietly activates his presence concealment skill. The ability thins his aura, making him difficult to detect. He successfully pets one, marveling at how silky its fur is. He is overcome with pure happiness as he cuddles the creatures. He suddenly feels an intense, jealous glare from behind him. It's Shiel. He quickly apologizes, saying he meant no harm. He chases after his pouting companion, who floats away in a huff. A short while later, he checks on the smoking bacon. It's done. The color is light, but the aroma is perfect. He offers a piece to the now placated Shiel. He takes a bite himself, as Shiel eagerly dives for its portion. He shouts with joy at how incredibly delicious it is. The pork is juicy, and the wolf meat has a wonderful texture. Patting his full stomach, he decides to try alchemy next. He is amazed that he can craft potions with so few ingredients. He gathers the needed herbs, wondering if a pot is even necessary. With intense focus, Sora channels his magical energy into a small, empty bottle. A magical pop echoes as a shimmering, ornate potion materializes in his hands. His eyes fly wide with shock and delight. He can't believe he actually did it. He wonders at the logic of it, questioning if this is a real potion. To be certain, he instinctively activates his most reliable skill, appraisal. The results appear. It's a potion, but its recovery effect is minor and its quality low. He is overjoyed, amazed that he can create real potions all by himself. A small doubt lingers in his mind as he wonders if it actually works. He decides to test it by applying a single drop to a small cut. The pain vanishes instantly, but the redness remains, confirming its minor effect. A new idea strikes him, and his expression becomes firm with resolve. He decides to use better ingredients and more MP to create a stronger potion. After another attempt, a new potion appears, and he quickly appraises his creation. The recovery effect has improved to small, though the quality remains low. He realizes that to improve the quality, he'll need to level up his skill. Remembering the appraisal, he wonders what the potion might taste like if he drank it. With a determined gulp, he brings the small bottle to his lips for a taste test. He immediately spits out the liquid in a violent, comical spray. His face twists in disgust as he chokes out that the taste is incredibly bitter. He vows to never drink a potion again unless it is an absolute emergency. As the day of the escort mission approaches, Sora begins his preparations. He is shown making more bacon, training his swordsmanship, and raising his skill levels. When his appraisal reaches level 8, the previously unreadable job list becomes clear. He sees the jobs he can now take, but wonders if the choice is permanent. Deciding it's too soon, he resolves to wait until he's stronger before choosing a job. On the morning of departure, a familiar voice calls out his name from the street. He sees Chris and Rurika waving eagerly from the city gate, calling him over. Sora is amazed by the crowd, as Chris explains 5 parties have been hired. He smiles, relieved to learn they won't be the only ones on guard duty. A man steps forward, offering a polite good morning to the assembled adventurers. He introduces himself as Dalton, the caravan leader, and thanks them for their help. Dalton shows them the route, a 10-day journey to the city of Phoenix. He bows deeply, asking for their cooperation for the duration of the quest. Dalton then prepares to introduce the veteran adventurer who will be their overall leader. He presents the C-rank party, Goblin's Lament, who will be in command. Sora's eyes go wide in recognition as he exclaims the leader's name, Sephon. Sephon is equally surprised, shouting that he never expected to see Sora on this mission. He playfully asks Sora if he heard about Rai's proposal, making his companion laugh. Sephon clenches his fist, ready to address the entire group of adventurers. He formally reintroduces himself as Sephon, leader of the veteran party. He explains that this will be a long, monotonous job, so they should all get along. The adventurers let out a cheer, energized and ready for the journey ahead. Sora smiles, thinking to himself that his very first escort quest is about to begin. From high on the city walls, a guard bellows the command, "Open the gate." The massive caravan of covered wagons begins its slow procession out into the wilderness. Because the wagons are so heavy, they move slowly, forcing the adventurers to walk. Chris turns to Sora with an encouraging smile, telling him to do his best. A young adventurer with a mohawk approaches, asking if they are also beginners. The adventurer introduces himself, explaining he's the only newcomer in his group. He confidently states that simply walking beside the wagon seems like an easy job. Chris sternly warns him not to be careless, as these missions can be very tough. The newcomers laugh, offer warning, boasting about their own impressive stamina. From a distance, Stefan watches the rookies with a wry, knowing smile. His companion expresses her concern, thinking the new kids are too overconfident. Stefan just laughs, knowing that the reality of the job is far from easy. He explains that escort quests, while they seem simple, are actually incredibly difficult. It is a grueling, monotonous task that requires constant vigilance and endless walking. The mental pressure is immense, as any mistake carries a heavy penalty. Matching the horse's relentless pace drains stamina much faster than a normal journey. He notes that almost all adventurers are completely exhausted after their first escort quest. His companion tells him to offer some advice, but Stefan just laughs it off. He declares that anyone who isn't tired is either a fool or someone remarkable. With a smirk, he wonders just how this particular group of rookies will fare. 1 hour later, the caravan continues its slow, plodding march across the plains. The mohawked adventurer from before is already sweating and looking completely drained. He struggles to keep up, while Sora walks beside him, looking perfectly fine. The adventurer pants heavily, the sound of the rumbling wagon wheels mocking him. The group of newcomers complains about the constant tension, already feeling exhausted. Sora cheerfully hands out mugs of water, encouraging them to stay hydrated. The mohawked adventurer is stunned, asking how Sora isn't tired at all. Sora deflects the question, vaguely attributing his endurance to his various skills. He knows his walking skill prevents SP drain, allowing him to stay on high alert. He is thrilled, realizing this mission is a perfect way to gain 3 kinds of experience. His companion yells at him, completely baffled by his cheerful, smiling expression. Sora is flustered, realizing his genuine enjoyment of walking is strange to others. Stefan and the other veterans watch on, amazed by Sora's incredible stamina. 10 long hours pass, and the sun finally begins to set on the first day. The long line of wagons finally comes to a halt for the night. Stefan congratulates everyone on their hard work and declares they will make camp. The moment they stop, all the other adventurers collapse to the ground in a heap. Stefan reminds them that this is only the first day of a very long journey. His sharp gaze scans the field of exhausted adventurers lying on the ground. He spots Sora, still full of energy, checking on his companions and the others. Stefan is genuinely impressed, thinking to himself that Sora is truly something special. He calls out to Sora, asking the energetic young man to help set up camp. Sora readily agrees, while the other adventurers can barely move from exhaustion. That evening, Chris and Rurika praise the delicious, hearty soup they're eating. Other adventurers comment that Sora seems to be a surprisingly good cook. Chris and Rurika exchange a confused glance, unsure what the others mean. Sora just laughs, understanding that his companions are about to get a surprise. He slyly notes that the standard rations won't be enough for such a tired group. With a dramatic flourish, he presents a huge, sizzling platter of his signature bacon. The girls take a bite, their faces lighting up with pure, blissful delight. Sora happily announces that he has plenty more, thanks to his spatial storage. As he picks up more platters, Chris asks where he is going with all the food. He explains with a smile that he's going to share with the other hungry parties. The girls watch him go, touched by his kindness and incredible generosity. Rurika smiles softly to herself, her admiration for Sora growing even deeper. Sora approaches the campfire of Goblin's Lament, offering them his delicious bacon. He greets Safon's party, who welcome the generous and friendly newcomer warmly. Safon boisterously invites Sora to sit down, who politely asks to join them. A woman with braided hair greets Sora, saying Safon has told her much. Safon proudly introduces the woman, Yino, as his wife, to Sora's surprise. They were just talking about him, and Yino praises him as a man of backbone. The others agree, impressed by his tireless walking throughout the long day. Flustered by the praise, Sora blushes and offers them his sincere thanks. He remembers his purpose and offers the platter of bacon he prepared for them. Safon is delighted by his thoughtfulness, exclaiming what a great guy he is. The party gathers around, curious about the strange food they have never seen. Without a moment's hesitation, Safon takes a piece and tries it. The incredible flavor hits them all, and they erupt in unanimous praise. Safon declares it a delicacy, and Yino wishes she could eat it every day. Sora happily explains he learned the recipe in the village he recently saved. The mood shifts as Safon turns to Sora with a serious question in mind. He heard Sora would soon be leaving his party and wants to discuss it. He looks Sora in the eye and formally invites him to join their party. Sora is completely taken aback by the unexpected and serious offer. Safon lists his merits: great stamina, strong legs, and amazing cooking skills. He explains a guy like Sora would make their party more fun and capable. Sora acknowledges that it is not a bad offer for him at all. He tells Safon he is grateful for being praised so highly by him. But he explains traveling with the girls showed him he is still very weak. He wants to adventure alone for a while to become truly self-sufficient. He asks if Safon might extend the offer again once he is stronger. Safon clutches his head in mock despair, groaning that he's been rejected. Sora apologizes but thanks him again sincerely for the generous invitation. Safon accepts his answer with a smile, saying there's nothing to be done. Yino kindly tells him to let them know if he ever changes his mind. Sora smiles gratefully, thanking everyone for their kindness and understanding. He once again feels the mysterious gaze, seeing glowing eyes in the darkness. He worries that joining a permanent party might put them all in danger. That night, he shares his bacon with everyone, listening to their many stories. Too restless to sleep, he rests one half of his mind using his skill. 3 days later, the caravan finally arrives at the relay town of Alka. Sora admires the town, noting how clean and orderly everything appears to be. Safon calls out to the group, congratulating them on their hard work. He announces a full day of free time while they unload all the cargo. He sternly warns them that the real danger lies ahead, so they must restock. The exhausted adventurers erupt in a cheer and scatter into the town. Chris and Rurika happily ask Sora how he wants to spend their day off. Sora smiles with determination, having something he has long wanted to try.